wondering if I should put on some lo-fi. I found a good one last time, so I might try to find that one again. That it was like the anime action music sort of stuff. I might try that again. But hopefully you guys see the topic. Um, and we can go on about that sort of stuff. But yeah, looks like Democrats are looking for whom to blame for their losses in this election. I said Kamala's lost, but they lost across the board. Um, the Republicans took majority hold of the Senate and majority hold of the House of Representatives. I think they have most of the gubernatorial. Uh, yeah, I think they hold. There's more Republican governors across the country. Um, Exceptions of mine, of course, and other places here on the East Coast and one or two on the West Coast. But yeah, by and large, um, we're facing a GOP led majority throughout the government on the federal level. So that means things can get done um, aside from like filibusters. So this is why no one wants to get rid of the filibusters because no matter who's in power, the ones who aren't in power will use it and they know that it switches. So they know that they need that tool because they know that every so and so years Congress will flip. Um, so no one wants to get rid of the filibuster because they all know at some point they're going to need it again. So, but hopefully I'll get an audience soon. Sassy Cat says, "Hi, I'm new. What's up, Sassy?" um, so yeah, so anyway, so they're looking for people to blame for their losses in the election. Pranima says hi. Main says hi. What's up, guys? Um, so yeah, they're looking for people to blame. And the thing is, when you're looking at the exit polls across every demographic, more people voted for Trump in this election than in 2016 and in 2020. And that's why he won. So there's no particular group to blame, although, they're trying different people to blame. They're trying to blame young men. In the black community, they're trying to blame black men, which numerically doesn't add up. And I'm going to get into that in a second. Um, they're trying to blame Latinos, particularly Latino men. Um, but the biggest, I think the biggest scapegoat so far is young men. um, they need to point the fingers back at themselves. Again, you look at every demographic voted more for Trump in this election than in the previous two elections in 2020 and 2016. More white men voted for him. More white women voted for him. More black men voted for him. More black women voted for him. More Latino men voted for him. More Latino women voted for him. More indigenous people voted for him. More Asian Americans voted for him. Um, and here's another thing that people won't want to admit. Some of these people crying about his election secretly voted for him. They're just they're just pretending they voted for her. some of these people sitting there crying and boohooing secretly are rejoicing because they actually went into the booth and voted for him. Let's keep it a buck. If every single demographic has had more numbers voting for him in this previous election, in this current election that just passed, that meant that some of these people claiming they were they were for Kamihaha are lying. They, voting is anonymous. So some people claiming, that they voted for her, whatever, are lying. Some of them didn't even vote. And the ones who did vote, they may have not voted for her. They may have skipped. They may have skipped that. They may have skipped that choice altogether, or they could have voted for um, the libertarian choice, Charles, whatever his name was. They could have voted for Jill Stein. They could have wrote someone else in. In some places, Cornel West was still on the ballot. Not very many, but some places had him. Or they may have just simply voted for Trump. We don't know. Black men have been hugely blamed for his for him winning, like, even though it's patently false. I'll gladly take that because I did vote for him. And if people do think that we caused him to win, that's actually a good thing because that means they won't. Democrats can no longer take out votes for granted. For the past, you know, 40 years, they just assume as a voting block, all black people are going to vote Democrat. So there's really no need to promise them anything, which they haven't. This is the first election where I've seen them actually try to convince black people to vote for her because they saw that she was losing the black male vote. So she actually put out uh, an agenda on her website promising black men certain things, but none of these things actually spoke to the concerns of black men. And then they later admitted a week after they put that agenda on her website that all of these policies would actually benefit all Americans, which meant it wasn't specifically for black men. I mean, like stuff for crypto. Like, how many black men buy Bitcoin, BitTorrent? I mean, not Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. Like, that had nothing to do with us. Like, that shit was crazy. But here's the thing: when you look at the exit polls, yes, more black men did vote for Trump, but the majority of them still voted for that Indian woman because she's not black. It was about 73% black men, 74% still voted for her. About 23% voted for Trump. The rest either didn't vote or voted for a third party candidate. So even 23% isn't a lot, but it is double the amount from 2016. But more black women voted for him too. About 12% of them voted for Trump, which is about double of last time. I think it was like 8% back in 2016, something like that. But about 12% of black women voted for him. But either way, the people the people of the black community get mad at black men voting for him doesn't add up because look, black men are only 6% of the vote of American voters. Only 6%. So let's put this in perspective. All right. So that's about 335 million people in the country. Only 12% of those are black people, right? Then you then, that becomes smaller when you're looking at, eligible voters. So out of that, black men only make up 6% of eligible American voters. 6%, which means our numbers wouldn't have been enough to cause him to win unless it came down to just us, but it didn't. Uh, and you can get mad when out of that 6%, 74, 70, about 74% of them still voted for Harris. 74%, leaving about 23% of them who voted for Trump. The rest either didn't vote or voted for a third party. So that's not a lot of people. It's not. Just just looking at the numbers, that's not a lot of people. So then they try to swift the. So then they, the pundits on the left try to shift the blame to Latino men because over 47% of them voted for Trump. Again, whose fault is that? And then you had these people in the showing the, the the racism on the liberal left because people don't think they're racist, but they clearly are, saying these Latinos voted to get deported. And I'm like, you're assuming these people are illegal migrants. It's like they couldn't even vote if they were illegal migrants. One and two, you're assuming that they all support, and then you're assuming that these people are like naturalized citizens and can all get denaturalized, and which is again false. Or you're assuming that because they're Latino and Hispanic that they all support illegal migration. No, they don't. They are the strongest advocates against illegal migration because it hurts them in the long run. And it's a slap in the face to all of them who came here through the legal process. Because it's like, hey, I came here, the hard way, did everything correctly, and these people just came over here illegally across the border and they're getting hell of benefits. Like, how is that fair? Of course they would be against that shit. Indigenous people, Native Americans, overwhelmingly voted for Trump. I think about at 63%. I don't know how it breaks down gender wise, but 63% of Native Americans voted for Trump. So, um, Asians, I'm not sure that all the numbers or how it breaks down by gender, but more of them voted for Trump as well. So, hey, if you wanted the Asian vote, maybe you should have ran an actual Asian instead of Kamala Harris. Should have maybe asked Andrew Yang to step in. People loved Andrew Yang. He even wanted to do UBI for people who don't remember Universal Basic Income. People forgot about that. John Doe, I've already answered this like literally dozens of times, bro. You've been on the streams. So anyway, um, and you've seen my short video, my YouTube shorts, and my community tabs. Uh, you're saying don't start. You're starting it. You've already been on my stream, so you know which way I voted already. I've literally just talked about this. I've literally just said this 5 minutes ago. So anyway, so guys, like I said, so they're looking for someone to scapegoat, and it seems the only thing they can try to do is blame young men. Um, Again, whose fault is that? If it is a lot of men whose fault it is, look who pushed them away. They they were so condescending to men in the last couple of years and the leaders. Like, what do you think? Like, as a kid, things used to be completely reversed. It used to be the when I was a teenager, about you know about like 25, 30 years ago, it was the Republicans who seemed aloof and elitist. But that's completely flipped. Now the Democrats are seen as aloof and elitist. Like I said, people need to not get finessed by these politicians, because as I've said hundreds of times, and I keep saying it again, both Democrats and Republican, especially the establishment candidates, like they all go to the same elite. They all have attended the same elite universities. Like look at John Kerry and George W. Bush back in 2004. They literally went. They literally both went to Yale around the same time. Both had around the same like GPA, which was about a C average. They were both like C average students. Although they tried to say that Bush was dumb and Kerry was more intelligent than him. Bush, after he went from Yale, went on to get an MBA at Harvard. He's not stupid. Started his own business, became an owner of the Texas, whatever the major, I forgot, Texas Rangers baseball team. Became a governor in Texas. Like, um, they were even part of the same secret uh, organization, Skull and Bones. Like both the Democrats and Republicans are elite, are of the elite. They go to the same elite universities. They are part of the same organizations and events. They live in the same community, especially within the Washington Beltway. They all live in the same areas, and they send their kids to the same private schools. So both of them talking about to be the best of the best. Sorry, it looked like the connection just wavered for a second. But in any case, it's not about being elite. It's about being aloof to the average person. And like a 7, 8 figure person telling working class people they shouldn't care about the cost of like butter and stuff like that. Like, good for you that you don't have to care about those things. Most of us do. Agnes says, "Hello, sir. Did you enjoy Veterans Day?" Um, I tried. I didn't really do too much. I went to Lido Pizza. That was my favorite pizza place because they were offering free pizza, and these little Indian folks running it tried to tell me that it was too late to order the veterans special. But then they took my friend's order, and he ordered me a pizza, and then several other people came in and ordered pizza because we were about to leave. Because he was like, "Oh, so you guys are done taking orders?" They said, "Oh no, we'll still take orders." I'm like, "Oh, so they won't take Veteran Days order?" I said, "Okay, cool." So I was like, "I won't patronize them again." And I didn't cause a scene or anything because I was just like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." Because we were about to leave. Then my friend ordered a pizza for both me. Then he, for me, and then he ordered one for himself just to treat me for Veterans Day, because I was just gonna leave and go somewhere else to eat. Even if I had to pay, I wasn't gonna pay at a place where they weren't gonna, acknowledge their own specials that they give. So, but other than that, I did well on Veterans Day. I didn't watch any Veterans Day related movies or shows. I should have, but I've watched so many. I don't know which ones to watch unless I watch something over again. Reverend Don Bonker says one is ungodly, the other is godly. I don't want to feed into that either. We need to stop this good versus evil thing in politics. One side is not good, the other side is not evil. That bullshit needs to go away. Again, stop listening to what pundits say. At the end of the day, these same people telling you that the other side is evil are at dinner with those same people when they go home and they're off the air. These same people who are like diehard liberals or diehard conservatives, their wife is probably conservative, or their husband is probably liberal, or whatever, or vice versa. But they're telling you that you should cut off your family and friends, that you should hate the other side, that the other side's evil. Don't feed into that. It's all bullshit. it's, 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 it's BS. No one's evil because of their political beliefs, unless their beliefs are in like, unless their beliefs teach them to delete you, then they're not evil. So they may be fundamentally wrong headed. I'll say that. Um, both sides are wrong headed on different issues. I'm politically apathetic, so that's why I can look at both sides and see when both of them are doing some dumb shit and saying some, saying some fuckery. But we shouldn't feed into that good versus evil thing. It's just ridiculous. No one's good or evil because like we're gonna end up being like Jamaica where they have political gangs, like literal political gangs going around offing each other on the behalf of the people running for office. Like this is how this it got so bad. Like I remember in Jamaica, that's how what's his name almost got killed. Bob Marley by political gang assassins. We shouldn't we shouldn't feed into that good versus evil thing because this political tribalism is just absurd. Anyway, like this is that's rude to them. I know it really was actually like it annoyed me. I'm like, how you gonna? Because if like I said, if it was just the fact they were closing and they weren't taking any new orders because it was like an hour or so before they closed, I understood that. But the fact they were still taking other orders, they just didn't want to honor their own their own Veterans Day special. Just that just completely turned me off. Especially when especially Molito's like my favorite pizza place, and they're the sponsor of they're one of the sponsors for my school for my school team, the Terps. But yeah, I'm not spending any more money at that place, Agatha. And how you doing, by the way, beautiful? And Don, oh sorry, Dan, why are you asking me that in French? You at the airport, so you're on your way back to the U.S. Did you bring me back a souvenir? Bring me back a Cayman Island uh, check account. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. Heading home. Yeah, that's what I figured. Um, a lot of women with money headed off, like black women headed off to vacation. My mom went to Marrakesh in Morocco. Um, I'm stuck here. There's even people have even started. I don't know how serious this is, but they have started a 4 year cruise for people who are upset about the election and want to just be gone from the country for the next 4 years. They have a cruise ship. I don't know. I don't care who got elected. There's no way I would be stuck on a fucking cruise ship for 4 years with random people. No, that doesn't sound like an escape. That sounds like punishment to be on a stuck on a cruise ship for 4 years. Nah, no thanks. She said I can't stay so long on a cruise. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like cruises have lost their what's the word? I don't want to put it. Cruises aren't sexy. I'll put it that way. Like I guess maybe for old people, but for a younger person, being stuck like now that we know like some of the sanitation problems that go on in cruises and stuff like that, that does not sound sexy. Like and to be and to voluntarily be on one for 4 years, hell no. Like where are we headed to? Gilligan's Island? Like no way in the world I would be on a cruise ship for 4 years just because I'm mad at the election results. If that's the case, I'll just go spend 4 years in another country, but on a cruise ship. That's punishment. BTB FBG says, "What time you usually start pimping?" Like usually around this time, but sometimes later, like around 9, 10. But I've been trying to get my streams early around this time, like 8, 9 ish, instead of doing it late. Agnes says Mojo. Yeah, she said the most is like 1 week. Even yeah, one week would be about it. The only way I would probably do like a 2 week cruise or something like that is like a Caribbean cruise where you get the island hop. That would be cool because at least you get the offload like every couple of days. You get like offload in Grenada, and Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad, and um, all these sort of like you're constantly getting off the boat and seeing the you know you know chopping it up with the locals, getting tasting the food, going hitting the beaches and stuff like that. Like that would be cool. But to be just stuck on the ship itself, mm-mm, I couldn't do it. Tactical Vibes says, "Hey, what's up, man?" Agla says, "Yeah, the island hop is nice." Yeah, true. Because that's the only cruise I've been wanting to do is like a Caribbean cruise because there's no specific island I really want to go to in the Caribbean. So I figured a Caribbean cruise would probably be better for me than going to any specific island because there's no specific island I really want to hit. And Jamaica's not really lit for me because it's like really the only place you can really chill in Jamaica is at the resorts, and I don't want to go overseas just to be at a resort the whole time because most of the country is not safe enough for tourists. Like, I mean, I guess some people might be comfortable chilling in Kingston or somewhere like that, but for the most part, it's safer in Jamaica, like at the resorts. But outside of the resorts, like I said, that doesn't appeal to me. Just going somewhere just to chill at the resort for a week, unless it was all rice bunnies. Let me stop. Let me stop. Volk fan says, "Hey there, guess what? I was born in Denmark. Cool. Um, Agnes says Cayman Islands is very cool. We walk around window shopping. What's up, Eric? Eric the Guapo is back. Reverend Don Marcus says not rice snow. Well, for you, snow bunnies. For me, rice bunnies, which I've actually coined that term. I just haven't patented it yet, which I need to before someone else does. But apparently, it's funny. Like the term has gone over the internet, and I was literally the person who coined this back in 2000, two, um, early 2011. I coined the term rice bunnies, and I've even made a video talking about that. But yeah, no one used that term before me. I even I even thought the Chinese tennis star, um, she started using it to refer to herself, but I don't think anyone really used the term before I coined it back in 2011. Now I did acknowledge you, Tactical Vibes. I said, "Hey, what's up?" You didn't hear me because I even said, "Tactical Vibes, what's up?" um, Reverend says Indian chicks are spice bunnies. Well, yeah. See, I was gonna call Latinas spice bunnies at first, and then I gave up because so I was a library clerk at the time, right? And I was literally at work when I coined the term, and I was asking my supervisor. I was like, "What would be a good term?" Because I told her like I love Asian women, and she was like, and I was like, "What could be a good term for them?" I was like, "We got snow bunnies for white girls." I was like, what could we call Asian girls?" And I was like, "I got it, rice bunnies." And she was like, she's like, "Yeah, that's actually." She's like, "Yeah, that actually works." I was like, "I know, right?" I was like, "What should now?" And I was like, "Damn!" I said, what should I call Latinas?" And she was like, maybe spice bunnies." And she was like, then she started laughing. She's like, "Wait, let me stop helping you make up these names." So I never made up a word for Latinas, but I was gonna call them spice bunnies. But I never worked it out. I just kept it with Asian girls with rice bunnies, and I never made one up for Latinas. For Indian girls, I don't. I don't know if Spice Bunny works for them. 'Cause like I said, I feel like that works more for Latinas. If I was gonna make if we were gonna give them the bunny designation, I think that would more apply for the Latinas. Because I like them too. I like them a lot too. Um, Indian women, eh, I want something for them, but something that's not, offensive. That's why I thought Rice Bunnies was good because it wasn't offensive, but it was funny at the same time. Um, I don't know. I gotta think about that one, but I don't think Spice Bunnies. I think if you say Spice Bunnies, people are going to think uh like probably gonna think Spanish Latina. I think Coke Bunnies. No, that's just again that's just racist. It has to be it has to be funny but playful. I mean, it has to be like playful and not offensive. Like Snow Bunny is playful, it's not offensive. Rice Bunny is playful, but it's not offensive. Coke Bunny, that's just offensive, especially when many people in the Latin American world don't even live in those sorts of countries where that's being pushed. So that would just be offensive. Like I said, I was thinking Spice Bunny for Latinos, but Indian women, that's a whole different category. Volk says, all right, I got to skedaddle. Have a good, wonderful day and night. Thanks, Volk fan. Dragon Slayer says, no racism here, but what is it like to be black? He said, being black just means that you have more melanin than other people, but what is it like? There, that's like a that's like a philosophical question, Dragon Slayer. Like literally, like this goes in not all right. Not trying to get too nerdy here, but this goes into the a question by a famous philosopher. I think he just passed recently. He made an essay said, "What is it like to be a bat?" And the whole point of the essay was to say that we can't talk about certain mental attributes. Like, for instance, there's a thought experiment that way into the future we have an advanced neuroscience that can explain any and everything psychological about everything. But we have one of these neuroscientists, and she's been colorblind her whole life. But again, she knows everything about the science of color and light and flowers, how and perception of the flowers and all that sort of stuff. But then she gets this corrective procedure so that now she can see color, whereas her whole life she's been colorblind. So now she can see red, and she realizes even though she understood everything about what something is like why a flower would be red, like a rose, like a red rose, why it appears red because of the certain you know uh, light that is absorbed and emitted by the flower to give off that that color on the in the visual visual light spectrum. But knowing all this that she knows about physics and neuroscience and all of this and perception, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't prepare her for the experience of seeing of experience of redness. And that means that there's fun some which led that philosopher Thomas Nagel, by the way, his name's Thomas Nagel, to say that there's something outside of just the physical world to, um, to explain this redness. Um, well, that's the thought experiment. So then he goes into like, so what is it like to be a bat? Like, how, what would it feel like to be a bat? And like, we can know all the neuroscience about being bats. Like, I literally had a professor who was a specialist in like knowing about bats, like studying echolocation and all this sort of stuff. She even worked with this guy who could do echolocation. He could go, and he was physically blind. He go, and he could find his way around places doing these physical clicks like a bat could like echolocate. But does that really represent what is it like to be a bat? I don't know. So what is it? So getting back to your question, what is it like to be a black person? I don't know because I haven't been anything else other than that. So I wouldn't know. Um, I mean, other than you know, no, I ain't gonna say that. But no, every group has its challenges. Even white men, they had their own challenges. So I couldn't say what's it like to be black because I haven't stepped outside of that. I, to answer your question, I wouldn't know because I've never been anything else but. So I can't step outside of what I am to say what it would be like to be that. Now there might be some pro blackity black people who would tell you otherwise and say, well, to be black it would be to experience X, Y, and Z, but uh, that's all relative to where you live and all that other sort of stuff. Because, like I say, this being black is like a certain way of things from my experience, but that may not be the experience of someone who grew up in Germany as a black kid. I mean, Thomas Sowell has talked about the fact that a lot of German blacks don't suffer from the problems here that black Americans do because they didn't grow up in a hip hop culture that glorifies criminality and and demonizes ambition. So I, I don't know. GJC says evening. What's up, GJC? Uh, Agnes says, how is the atmosphere at home? Didn't listen to no radio, watch the news. Well, I don't know how similar Baltimore weather is to you in New York, but it's been like it's been mostly warm to be honest here, and it's just starting to get cold, but not cold cold like 50s. It dropped down to like the 40s at night, but it hasn't really been cold for the most part. So, and I'm guessing it's not too far off different in New York since you guys are only like 3.5 hours away. Who won the House or Senate? Again, so the Republicans took control of both Senate and the House. They have the majorities in both. In both the Senate and in the House of Representatives, the Democrats lost 2 seats and the Republicans picked up 2 seats. So unless that's changed, um, and they had, like I said, they have a majority in both. Uh, Bill says, let's turn to God Shepherd's Chapel. YouTube explains the whole Bible. God bless. Um, I don't know what God Shepherd Chapel YouTube channel is, but I will say this, and this is no diss to that channel, that YouTube channel. Just like I wouldn't tell people to ascertain academic information from YouTube, I would tell them not to ascertain religious information from YouTube either, because you have a whole bunch of variety and stuff, and a lot of it may not be very informative or accurate. I would say if people are looking to find religious inspiration or where they or strengthen their convictions, they should probably attend a actual church. And this is coming from an atheist. So, Jordan says, "How long was your first prison sentence?" I don't know about as long as your mother sucked my dick. Anyway, Dragons says, "We all bleed the same color in the end. It's important to love each other." Agreed. J.A.C, congrats on the election. Well, thanks, but I didn't win anything. I didn't get my secret decoder pin in the mail when he won. I'm joking, but yeah, I was happy that he won. Of course. Corbin says, "I really like you in Avengers." Uh, I'm sure Diddy really enjoyed you at his house. Um, GJC says, "A friend of mine who is Asian wants to cancel her trip to Miami next year because she's worried about hate. Hate from whom? The hate was coming during the pandemic. That's when there was all this Asian hate. And guess what? Biden signed a fucking law and um, that criminalized uh, anti uh, anti Asian hate crimes. Ain't doing anything for black people though. Probably one of the reasons they lost. But yeah, she shouldn't worry about Miami. Miami is a very diverse place. It's not like she's going to like, and even if she went to like somewhere in like middle America, no one's gonna mess with her. Like no one's just as like I said, the only time I really saw that happen was during the heat of the pandemic, like around 2021. That's when things really got heated, like late 2020 and throughout 2021. That was when I saw the most like violence against Asians in this country ever, and that has since has died down. Like she'll be okay, I'm pretty sure. He said, "This is not my view on things, but a lot of people sweating the new administration up here." Like again, these these people like under 21? Like the 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 derangement of these people acting like something's ominous is going to happen because he's in office. These motherfuckers forgot. Excuse my language, guys, but these motherfuckers forgot that he was in office for 4 years. When he was in office for 4 years, no one was like deleting like Asians or gay people or black people or like none of this happened during his administration. So to act like now he got reelected and suddenly all these evil things are going to happen when none of these evil things happened in the first time he was elected, just shows how deranged they are. Like it just shows the mental health crisis here in America, and that's not just on the left though. There's a mental health crisis across the general population, both on the left and the right. But people freaking out like something's bad is going to happen when the presidential election does not affect your life. It simply doesn't. Your local elections do, and most people ignore their local elections. The down ballot was much more important than who you voted for as president. So, uh, Dragon says, "How old are you? 47." Thomas says, "Nobody saw violence against Asians, bro." No, that no. Let's be honest. During 2020, like late 2020, 2021, people were like beating up Asians. Let's be honest here. But it wasn't at the. But it wasn't like. But it wasn't like every single Asian was under attack. In in places, but in certain places like in New York City and San Francisco, places like where there are a lot of accessible Asians, they weren't getting attacked. That definitely did happen. Like they literally signed Joe Biden literally signed a law back in 2022, uh, making it making anti-Asian hate crimes a crime. Like he signed that into law. So it was happening, but again, it's not like every Asian was like automatically just like a target. That didn't happen. But yes, there was increased violence against them. That was patently true because people were blaming them for the pandemic. And on top of that, a lot of Asian restaurants closed around that time too because people thought eating the food somehow was going to cause them to get get the the C-19, right? So people were being crazy. You have to remember, people in groups are very irrational. This is why we have the whole term herd mentality. So, but yeah, it was definitely violence against them, man. But it wasn't like I said. But it wasn't like every single person was under attack. That was definitely not the case. And then again, even back then, they tried to blame black people. They was trying to say black people were attacking them, and that simply wasn't true either. Black men get scapegoated for everything. He said that was media hype for like 2 seconds. When they figured out it wouldn't fly, they dropped it. No, like again, it was hyped up by the media for sure, but it definitely did happen to the point that they literally signed a law to 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 punish anti-Asian hate crimes. Like that really happened. So just because you don't agree with what they showed on the media doesn't mean it wasn't happening, but it was hyped. I will agree with you on that. Rise now says your eyes twitching like you used to put that white on that glass mirror, bruh. Nah, that was your mother sticking my dick in her mouth. Fuck out of here. Woodworking Gunny Bear says there are a lot of morons out there. True indeed. I don't know why they try me. These motherfuckers forget I'm Gen X. These motherfuckers forget I'm Gen X. If they think they go to come here, they will get cooked. Word. GJC says Pierre's the Canadian MAGA type candidate, and he'll be beating Trudeau soon. Well, I heard that Trudeau, a lot of there's a lot of dissatisfaction with Trudeau. I can probably see why. People are tired of the left's bullshit. Like I said, the left is coming off as aloof, and like I said, when I was younger, it was the complete opposite. It was the political right who seemed aloof. Now it's now it's the political left, and that's for good reason. Thomas says people just need to chill and let my man Trump do what he needs to do. He said, okay, so it happened in only Democrat places. Um, I can't. I I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that that was the case. What I would say is it happened in places where there were significant numbers of Asians. That's what I will say. So if yeah, San Francisco, yeah, obviously San Francisco and New York City are huge Democratic strongholds, right? But I was just using those two as examples because those are some of the two biggest populations for Asians, like San Francisco, New York City, Seattle, LA, Las Vegas, and several other places. But yeah, wherever there was a significant amount of Asian people, there was some hate crimes against them, definitely. He's LOL, right? But uh, you see those people a clown got the fuck off. Anyway, GJC is not sure how it is in the U.S., but we have tampons in all men's washrooms here as constant reminder Trudeau's done. See, that's what I'm saying. People are tired of the identity politics, and the the people on the left don't grasp the irony of using illiberal policies to promote liberal agendas. I'll say that again. People in the political left don't grasp the irony of using illiberal tactics to push forth a liberal agenda. Like here, there's some places, but the only places I've seen that, like I went to my alma mater earlier this year for their for Maryland Day, and they had a non-binary bathroom. Cool, but yeah, they had tampons sitting there in the bathroom. But most places I have been to are still don't do that. It has to be marked like a non-binary sort of bathroom to have that. The only thing I did like about the non-binary bathroom is that all the stalls are separated, are private, which is good because the worst thing, you know, for us guys, ladies, sit this one out. But the worst thing for us guys is like when you sitting there at a stall peeing, and a person will come right up to your stall and pee right next to you when they could have went to the other stall. Like, why are you peeing right next to me? And heaven forbid they try to hold a conversation with you while you peeing. Do not talk to me when I have my stuff exposed. Like, whether I'm peeing or bearing down in a you know in the bathroom. That's crazy. But all of those are private. And I joked with my friends. I was like, I guess all the stalls are private, so people can't reveal what can pretend that they're these other things until you see their genitals and realize that they aren't. So, um, um, Dragon Slayer says hypothetical scenario. Let's say you suddenly found yourself as the leader of your country. What would you do, and how would you lead? Please explain. That's a really broad question, though. Um, well, before that, let me get to these other questions. I mean, other comments. I'll get back to that because that that's a very broad question. TDP 1988 says Jesus is coming back soon. We all have to repent before it's too late. Um, Rising Out says I talk too effing much. Well, sort of the point of a live stream. You fucking nut much. If you don't like me talking, get the fuck off my stream. How about that? Because I can fight. At the end of the day, I can fight, bitch. So you're not gonna tell me to do anything I don't want to do. I can fight. If you don't think so, you can check out my videos. But I can fight, and I'm from Baltimore, so you can't do anything to me. Anyway, that man says, "Up, Daddy, what's the word tonight?" We just come from 1976. Said, "No, I'm chilling, bro." But let me get back to Dragon Slayer's question. He said, "So again, I'm gonna restate what he said. Help my thought process on this." He was like, hypothetical scenario. Let's say you suddenly found yourself as the leader of your country. What would you do, and how would you lead? Please explain. I mean, there's so many things on the agenda of a world leader, particularly that of the United States president, who is not just a world leader, but pretty much the world leader, right? Um, I would go about putting forth policies that I think would help the country. Uh, I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, I would do some of the things that I see Trump is doing, like gearing gearing up to do some mass deportations. We don't need people coming here illegally. Like the fact that ICE let over millions of people whom they didn't whom they didn't have time to process and just let them freely roam around the country without checking their backgrounds. And the ones whom they did, like over 600,000 of them had were criminals. Like like about 16,000 of them were convicted murderers. Another 13 or so thousand were convicted um, sex offenders and rapists. Another another what almost 16,000 of them were currently in the U.S. being held for homicide charges. We got Venezuelan gangs being let out here and people let out of Venezuelan prisons. So like what Cuba did back in like what it was the 60s and 70s, and they let all those motherfuckers come into Miami. Um, and yes, that scenario in Scarface was based on real, like something that actually happened. Some people are like, oh, you mean that like in Scarface? Yes, in Scarface, that was based on something that actually happened. Uh, we got all sorts of people coming across that porous border. Like you had a whole 2020 episode showing Chinese people just coming across the border in Texas using stuff that they saw on TikTok, showing people on TikTok showing them how to come across the border into America and ordering fucking Ubers when they got here. Like, wow, really? And that's a problem because you got a whole bunch of people of military age coming across the border. You're not going to tell me that some of them um, aren't agents of various sorts. That's a national security issue, huge national security issue. On top of that, we also know that these little narco traffickers, bring their people across the border as pretending to come here as refugees or people just looking to work or whatever. But what's more sinister about that is that there are um, some of our enemies across seas actually pay these narco traffickers to bring their people in amongst them as migrants to sneak them across the border. Huge issue. And I like that this new guy that Trump appointed as the border czar. Sorry. People asking him days like, well, are you gonna break apart families like you guys did last time? He's like, oh, absolutely not. He said, we're not gonna break apart families. We're gonna send them all back. I was like, yes, there we go. But yeah, so that would be part of my agenda would be getting rid of all the wave of illegal migrants. Two would be um, strengthening our freedom of speech laws. Like for way too long, the left has gotten away with taking away our cognitive liberty or freedom of thought and expression by basically using, you know, cancel culture, uh, these social media witch hunts, uh, these like all sorts of different little things they can do to shut people up about things and make them agree with things that you don't that the majority that the mainstream doesn't agree with all these alternative lifestyles and stuff like that. So much so like if I'm applying for jobs, I have to put my preferred pronouns on that bitch. Why? like, like I would get rid of the illiberal policies that have been allowed to flourish in academia. That's another thing I see Trump handling good. Um, I would do something about these public schools doing that as well. Why are they forcing a certain narrative in public schools? Um, as far as national security, like there's a whole bunch of things going on with these proxy wars. I would stop funding Ukraine automatically. Like Joe Biden, now that they're losing, has already like um, sped up the process to give them another $6 billion. Billion. They've already given them 129 billion amongst other stuff. Um, I couldn't say I'm not at that pay grade where I would know all the stuff I would do as a world leader. I just know there's certain things I would attack based on the people who voted for me, what they wanted. So, and this is why the Democrats don't get it. Getting back to my the original point of the stream, the topic being um, Democrats are looking for people to blame for Kamala's loss. They don't get that they're so out of step with mainstream America. Um, they're really out of touch. They just come off as aloof and condescending to the working class. And this like they it, it's not even hidden. Like back in 2016, Hillary called anyone who supported Trump a basket of deplorables. Biden called them garbage, and that backfired uh, huge. I mean, so much so that Trump threw on a little reflective vest and got into a garbage truck, and he said, "All right, well, if the American people are garbage, then I'm." He's like, "I'm there. I'm the garbage man. He was like, I'm gonna take that." So that was an L for the Dems and a W for Trump. Like, you're criticizing working class people, overeducated people criticizing working class people is not going to be a winning strategy. Like I said, I don't know who are the strategists for the Democratic Party, but those motherfuckers need to be fired. They need to be fired. Sitting there calling all men, basically saying all men are evil if they don't vote for Harris. Like, and even saying that we don't need men anyway. So, how are you mad? All, all these feminists and womanists, how are you mad that men didn't vote for Kamala when you said you don't need men for anything? If you don't need men for anything, then why are you mad they didn't vote for your woman? You didn't need them, right? You're strong and independent. You didn't need men, so why are you mad that they didn't vote for your candidate? You didn't need men, right? And here's another thing to back to double down on that. Women are the numerical majority in this country. So if every single woman of voting age voted for Kamala, she still would have won because they are the numerical majority in this country. But guess what? Again, you look at the exit polls, every single demographic broken down by both race and gender voted for Trump more than they did in the last two presidential elections. Overwhelmingly, 51% of white women voted for Trump. Or is it 55%? Something like that. So the majority of white women voted for Trump. Again, letting down the female candidate. They did it to Hillary, did it to Kamala. But no one's blaming them. They wanted to blame black men, then they want to vote, then they wanted to blame Latino men, they want to blame all young men. Blame yourselves. Women didn't show up for her because at the end of the day, a lot of women want a strong man to lead the country. And it's not that they don't believe that a woman can't, but just that those candidates weren't it. I think Elizabeth Warren would have got more votes than her. So that's their fault. Rising Eye says, I can fight. That's one aspect of getting bodily harm. Is other ways to get your ass, brother. Nigga, you're not my brother, so shut the fuck up. And you're getting the fuck off my channel because you're talking a bunch of keyboard warrior bullshit. You're not gonna do anything. You're gonna talk tough behind the anonymity of a screen because you're a bitch ass nigga and you're full of shit. Go suck on your daddy's dick like your mother used to and tell her that she's overdue for my appointment tomorrow at 5 p.m. like my usual. Make sure she brushes her teeth first. I don't want her getting any of that stuff on my dick when it's rubbing between her gums. Make sure she gargles so she can use her uvula. Anyway, Nutman says the local sheriffs and DAs don't let them do their jobs too. Well, that's a different subject. Um, sheriffs have a lot depending on the area. Sheriffs have a lot of autonomy, so that's not really true. Sheriffs have a lot of autonomy, and DAs. I don't even like prosecutors because I think they have too much. I think they have too much legal power. But again, that's a subject for another day. So these are not people um, who are powerless. The sheriffs typically um, hold a lot of power in particular places, and DAs overwhelmingly have a lot of power. So, I don't think that's the case. And no man says, "LOL, rise analogies. You sound cute right now with those soft lips." Dragon says, "This man is speaking facts." DJ Lou says, "They're not. You're just spitting out Fox News narratives." Dude, I don't even watch Fox News, so how am I spitting out Fox News narratives? And if I was spitting out Fox News narratives, then the Fox News would have been against what I was saying earlier about the anti-Asian crime stuff. So I'm not spitting out. The problem with you guys, some of you, not all of you, of course, I'm talking to DJ Lou, to you and people like you, is that you only get your news from one source. And I don't mean one particular source, I mean one side of the political aisle. I'm politically apathetic, so I don't need to just get digest my news from the left or just get my news from the right or whatever. I don't think you can think I don't think you can think critically on political issues if you're only beholden to one ideology. So I will watch Fox News or Daily Wire or Blaze TV, but I also watch the Young Turks, Rising, The Hill, um, CNN, um, um, stuff on stuff that come on news podcasts, uh, local Fox, the local Fox news station here, not Fox News like national news, like the local channels. Um, so I'm pretty well in tune and stuff in the thought spaces going on in the left and the right. Just because you don't accept what I am talking about doesn't mean that I only get my news from one area. That's on you. Here's the fact of the matter is, if you only get your news from the left, you're gonna miss out on stuff that the right is talking about. If you only get if you only get your news from the right, you're gonna miss out on stuff that the left is talking about. And then, I mean, on top of that, then you have other sources from people who are like libertarians or people who are politically agnostic. So Don says Tulsi and Pete gonna shut that shit down. He said 1.7 trillion last year to the defense and military budgets. Most people don't know that the defense budget and military budget are two different identities. Yeah, on top of that, the DOD has never passed the audit, Don. That's my major issue. Ever since they started giving the Defense Department audits, they have never passed an audit. That is problematic. That they get the they get the largest budget every year and haven't been able to pass a freaking audit. So we don't know where we don't know anything about their expenditures. That's problematic. Randall Green says JD Vance 2028. Don says DJ Lee, no one's watching Fox getting new talking points. Right. Like I don't even watch like guys, I don't even watch regular TV. I use my Fire Stick and the news I get is like I get snippets from different news channels, like if I'm watching YouTube or if I'm watching something else, um, or I'm looking at social media. But I don't sit down and watch hours of news on any cable network. Like no, I have better things to do with my time. I'm not watching Fox all day. I'm not watching CNN all day. I'm not watching MSNBC all day. I'm not watching Newsmax all day. I'm I'm not watching the Young Turks all day. But if there's something interesting, I will watch those snippets when they come on, like say YouTube or like I said, or on my social media. I'll check those out if it interests me, and I will use my own judgment of how you know reasonable I think the point that they're making. So DJ Lee says, so uneducated people are the kind of people we should follow. Who are uneducated though? Whom? So first of all, it sounds like you're insulting working class people. Working class people know what they need to live, bruh. Two, again, you are falling into that same political trap that I was just literally talking about half an hour ago. These pundits and politicians all come from the same cloth, regardless of the different beliefs that they hold. That's why I keep repeating this because some of you guys don't get it. Some of you who are ultra conservative, some of you who are ultra liberal progressive don't get the fact that all these people attend the same elite universities. Bush and Kerry both went to Yale University. Bush and Kerry both became members of Skull and Bones. Bush and Kerry both went on to become politicians and very successful because of their backgrounds and their family ancestry and yada yada yada, because they all come from the same oligarchy. Politics in America is an oligarchy. It doesn't matter where you're on the left or the right. They still expect you to attend the same elite universities, whether you're talking about the 8 Ivies and the 4 Ivy Plus schools. Those are the most elite universities in America. They all come from those places, those institutions. They all get admitted into the same organizations and attend the same events. They all tend to live in the same communities, especially in the Washington Beltway, where they all live in the same area across North Virginia, Maryland, and DC, and the DMV. They all send their kids to the same private schools. And at the end of the day, even though they may be at loggerheads with each other publicly and on air, some of these people hang out together during during the 90s when Clinton was going back and forth with the Republican led Congress. Like they looked like they were just like mortal enemies, but these people went to golf with each other. But they want you to hate each other. So don't take the political bait. Don't take the rage bait. Like sitting there making fun of uneducated people. I don't who's to say you're educated, bro? And yes, at the end of the day, are uneducated people the sort of people we should follow? Guess what? They all had the same vote as you do. So if you don't like the fact that uneducated people had the same vote as you do, then maybe you should look into improving the way government runs. Ever since Plato, there have been people who have wanted something of the sort of an epistocracy because they saw the flaws in democracy. Even our founding fathers saw the flaws in democracy, which is why they established the electoral vote in the first place, because they didn't believe the common man would be politically informed enough to make decisions on who should lead the country. So they created the buffer with the electoral vote. Some of them wanted a pure representative popular vote. Others wanted something of a parliamentary system similar to the UK. And the electoral system was sort of like a compromise between those two. We're the only nation that has an electoral vote, and it works. I mean, there's been 5 times out of the entire history of the American system that the popular vote and electoral vote didn't go together. Only 5 times. But if people are dissatisfied that the local yokel down the street can't has the same vote as they do, uh, either don't vote, vote and shut up, or push for a new a new electoral system where certain people can get a weighted vote based on showing that they're an informed voter, which would be the basis of an epistocracy. Randall says you can be uneducated and still have common sense. Exactly. It doesn't it doesn't take uh it doesn't take an advanced degree to know what you like, your own personal interest, that you know when life has become more expensive. It becomes more expensive to buy food, to fill up your gas tank. You know when you're sending your kids to school and they're pushing something on your kids that don't fall within your set of beliefs. You know it doesn't take advanced education to know when certain media IP is pushing certain narratives that you don't agree with because it's trendy and they can commoditize it. Uh, DJ Lou says, dude, you just talking but ain't saying SHIT because you ain't even on not acknowledge the people in this room. What are you talking about? I've literally acknowledged everyone in the chat room. I've literally acknowledged every single person in the chat room. So what are you talking about? You try that fallacious reasoning with someone else. Don says, DJ Lou uneducated people. Tell me about watching mainstream news, Fox, and you watching MSNBC. Hannah says, to be honest, I wouldn't want a woman leading the country no matter what party. Hey, if that's how you feel, I can't knock it. I get why. Now, I don't necessarily agree, but I get why some people think that. I do get that. Now, I will say we have had strong female leaders like Margaret Thatcher of the UK back in the 80s, right? She's a good example. Um, what about the lady who led India? Got her name, her last name. I think her last name was Gandhi, not the Gandhi, but the Gandhis have become a very important political dynasty in India, as have the Guptas. So, uh, Don says laughing my ass off. Randall Green says Lou needs some aloe for that burn. He said that's what's up. Want to hear? Okay, you got to fix that grammar. I don't know what you're saying. Don says Lou needs some testosterone. Right. I mean, like I would normally say to some of these people who are coming in here really emotional, y'all need to do some push-ups and get the bitch out of you. Seriously. You got one dude sitting there being a keyboard warrior, not knowing he's talking to like a fucking veteran and martial arts expert of the last 30 years. Like, dude, whatever. Then you got another guy telling me I'm pushing Fox News talking points when I don't even watch Fox News. I'm like, word? Okay. Don says, bingo. Lou says, same here. I just don't agree with some of what you say, but it's valid. I mean, it's fair. Like I said, so I, so unfortunately, I had one guy I had to ban from the channel. Like he was on for a solid 4 months, but dude couldn't stop talking about politics. And I mean, I was doing streams that had nothing to do with politics. Like if some of you watched my other streams, I will talk about stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with politics. Like I'll talk about sciencey type stuff, philosophy, or like like really nerdy stuff. Like I'm talking about like comic books and superheroes or whatever, whatever. And this dude would just always come in trying to talk about politics. And then so now we actually had the election and he's all in his feelings about stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. But then he started, being insulting. And I was like, so I had to show him the front door. And it's not about disagreeing with anyone. Like people are free to disagree with me as I am to disagree with them, but it has to be respectful. And like I said, a lot of these people wouldn't survive in academia, like because you were bringing up the whole thing about uneducated people. Here's the thing: I've been I've been to symposias or have had professors talk about other symposias where they have been very heated and contentious debates. But at the end of the day, these same people are still good friends. And they may have like just vociferously disagreed with every single thing that the other person talked about. And then they go get a beer afterwards. Like that's how you should conduct yourself. Like you can disagree with every single point that someone's made without finding it like an assault to your personal identity or your way of life, or like that they're posing an existential threat to you, which is something that a lot of these people haven't been able to do after the election. Like They acting like the results of this election has become an existential threat to them. The way people had these meltdowns was ridiculous. But that's a different topic. Captain Redclaw says, I personally don't think that America will ever elect a woman as president. It took 200 years to elect a black man. Well, he wasn't even black, so whatever. But that's not true. Again, that's I I mean, if that's how you feel, I get it, but that's not true though. I mean, you forget Hillary did win the popular vote, but she lost the electoral vote. The problem is, again, because of her condescending ways towards the working class, she lost swing states like Michigan. If she had those swing states like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, she would have won. But again, she did win the popular vote. She did win the popular vote. So it is so women are electable. She won the popular vote back in 2016, but she lost the electoral vote. And Kamala, she is still the first female vice president. And we've had Nancy Pelosi. Remember, she became the first Speaker of the House, a female Speaker of the House. And Trump just appointed the first female chief of staff for the White House chief of staff, who's a fellow TERP alumni, Susan Wiles, I think her name is, if I said that correctly. Women are electable, but they have to be the right sort of women. You can't just push anyone out there and say, well, vote for her because she's a woman. No. People just aren't going to fall for that. One of the flaws of Obama's election is that people see the is that now people see that simply voting for someone who looks like you is not enough if they're not going to actually vote in your interest. Let's assume Obama is a black man, which he really isn't, but he's just a tether. But whatever. Let's say he's a black man. So most black people in America voted for him just by virtue of the fact that he was black or black adjacent. Like almost 90% of the black electorate voted for him in 2008, and then and still almost the same amounts in 2012. A little less, but still almost all black people. But he did nothing for them in those 8 years. There's not one policy he put forth that was specifically for black people. And when confronted on it, he said, I'm not the black president. I'm the American president. Okay, cool. But every time he was down in the polls, what did he go do? He started going to black people for political support. He would go down to his little mega church in Atlanta looking for support from black voters when he was trying to push forth certain policies and stuff like that. He even started singing some old black spiritual, and all black people were just like, "Oh, look at him! He's singing a black spiritual." So, dude never even knew anything about the black community until he became a community organizer in Chicago for 2 years. But let me not go off on him because I'll go down a rabbit hole. But yeah, women are electable to the highest office in the land. It's just these weren't the best women. They simply weren't. Hillary, when she ran in 2016, she was hugely unliked, even on the left. A lot of there was literally a bunch of liberal white women saying we want a woman as president, just not that woman. So, DJ Lou says, I'm not talking about working class. I'm working class. When I say uneducated, I mean ignorant. Well, you gotta be specific. Again, we have the way the vote works. Everyone has an equal vote. So the person who's uninformed, the person who's informed, the person who's over-informed, you all have the same vote. If you want, outside of outside of restructuring the electoral system itself, the only other way that you can have an outsized voice in the vote is that you apply to be electoral college voter. You can apply to be an electoral college voter. I don't think a lot of people know that. You can apply to become an electoral college voter. I'll say it one last time. Guys, you can apply to become an electoral college voter. If you really think that you should your voice should be heard above others when it comes to voting, apply to be an electoral college voter or run for office, for a local office at the local level, whether it's an alderman, councilman, mayor, county executive, whatever. You see, you don't have to go to college to be educated. Well, literally, you do. You literally do. We're not. So let's let's make a distinction between educated and intelligence, which I think that's what you're trying to say. No, you don't have to go to college to be intelligent, but yes, you do have to go to college to be educated. By definition, like you go to school to become educated. That's why they call it getting an education. So you literally do have to go to school to get an education to be therefore called educated. That's just that's just true by definition. This is just an analytic truth. DJ Lucid, but it's all good. I don't hate you, bro. I'm fed up with all the BS too. Yeah, like I said, it was reasons for both sides to be fed up. And like I said, the like I was telling my friend the other day when we went for our Veterans Day pizza, is that the Democrats haven't learned their lesson from this loss. I was like, because if anything, this is the same lesson they should have learned back in 2016. Because I said literally, this election is just 2016 Part Two, Electric Boogaloo. Like this, this is playing out the same way that 2016 did. Like, and they're not learning their lessons. And so if they continue losing, it's on them. They can keep trying to gaslight certain demographics, but it's not really working. And like I said, if anything, they need to they need to fire their whoever their strategists are. They need to fire them. And here's another thing: people want economic populism. This is why Bernie Sanders was so popular in 2016 and 2020, and this is why Trump was so popular in 2016 and now in 2024. People want an anti-establishment candidate. That's why those two rose to the top. However, the Democrats and Republicans took two different lessons from that in 2016. In 2016, the Republicans wanted Jeb Bush, George W. Bush's brother, who was the governor of Florida, to be the front runner for the Republicans. And they had pretty much already you know, crowned him the nominee before they got to the before they finished the primaries. But Trump ended up continuously beating him because people didn't realize the dissatisfaction people had with one, political dynasties, and two, with these establishment candidates that they knew weren't looking out for the interests of the working class. But what did the RNC do? They decided, well, this is where the wave of interest is going towards Trump, so we're just going to ride this out. And they were right. The DNC saw the same thing happening with Bernie over Sanders because they pretty much had crowned Hillary the front runner because she saw it as being her time now because she had let Obama be in office. So now it's her time. Like she just saw this as like it was like she was ordained to to be the president. And the DNC decided to fuck over Bernie to make sure that she got the nomination. And I'm not even kidding. Like when we saw the leaked emails that came out after the election, like there was literally emails saying that even if Bernie grabbed enough votes to get the nomination, that they were going to still block him from getting it because they weren't going to allow it. Part of that is because they hate progressives, which I used to be. until they turned on themselves, on their own virtues. But they hated progressives. That's number one. Two, they didn't want an anti-corporate candidate like Bernie. Bernie out campaigned Hillary without even taking any corporate PAC money. Like he used grassroots campaigning and ran a better campaign than she did, just through grassroots campaigning. No corporate money, no super PACs, nothing. And the exit polls showed had he ran, he would have beat Trump back in 2016. But they were so scared of a Walter Mondale situation happening. So for folks who don't know, so I'm gonna take you back in history, back to Ronald Reagan, 1980. He blew out the Democratic candidate by every state other than Minnesota. Walter Mondale was this progressive, anti-establishment candidate Walter Mondale, and he got blown out by Ronald Reagan so badly. Like Ronald Reagan won every single state other except for Minnesota. Like Minnesota was the only one Walter Mondale won. So ever since then, Democrats have been deathly afraid of running a progressive candidate against a Republican in a presidential election, which is why they have always tried to go against anyone who was a progressive candidate like Bernie Sanders, because they're all scared that the whole Walter Mondale situation will happen again, even though polls were showing that Bernie would have beaten Trump. Let me get back. DJ Lewis laughing. BSK, what's up? He said, what's up? J.A.C says, have a good night. Thanks again. Everyone should hit the like button. Thank you, J.A.C. Stu Cat says, hi. What's up, Stu? DJ Lou says, you don't consider Obama black. Can you elaborate on that? I'd like to know your view on that. Sure. So, again, this is no diss to my African brothers because, like, at the end of the day, I consider them my brothers from another continent. But the reason why a lot of us fun, foundational Black Americans, people who can trace our ancestry to the people who arrived here in the beginning when the country was first established, mostly in the antebellum South during slavery. So meaning before 1860, is that his mother was white, his father was a Kenyan immigrant. Uh, After his mother and father's marriage didn't work out, his father migrated back to Kenya. He lived in Hawaii and Indonesia. There's neither one of them having a black population. The only black people you see en masse in Hawaii are in the military. In Indonesia, there's none of them. Well, there are some black negritos in Indonesia, but in the main. They don't live in the main parts of Indonesia. They live out in the very undeveloped parts of the nation. But he lived in like Jakarta, where most affluent Indonesians lived back then. Now it's actually moving to Java, but that's a whole different discussion. Um, but yeah, he lived in Hawaii and Indonesia as a child, so he never grew up around black people. He never even grew up around his own family members. He didn't meet his father's side of family until he was like an adult. He went to Kenya to visit his family. When he went to college, he went to Occidental College in California for 2 years, a predominantly white institution, PWI, and then transferred to Columbia. When he graduated, he became a community activist in Chicago, and for those 2 years was the first time he was ever around a black community. And then from there, he went on to Harvard Law School, and then took a job as a professor and became a state senator in Illinois before becoming a U.S. senator and then the president. He's not part of the black community. His ancestry is not foundational Black American. He has never identified with Black people except when it was politically expedient to do so. He's a tether. He is a tether. So is Harris. Harris is another tether. At least, I mean, at least Obama, we know he actually has African ancestry. It's still in contention whether Harris does. um, so that's why I say he's not really Black. The, I would have if I would have voted for like maybe Cornel West. At least he would have been an actual Black man. Gia Jelly says what? DJ Lou says I hit that button, amigo. Thank you, DJ. Like we started off on a rough account, but thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Seriously. Mrs. Mary 2019 says classism, not racism. Yeah, so classism, racism, all this stuff gets mixed together. Here's another. So to Miss Mary 2010's point, this is why Martin Luther King switched gears towards the end of his career before he was assassinated. He became a democratic socialist, similar to guess who? Bernie Sanders, who actually also guess who went to those marches when MLK was still alive? Bernie Sanders. This is why I supported Bernie Sanders back when he ran. But in any case, Bernie was, I mean, sorry, not Bernie. Martin Luther King was saying that you cannot really get at racism without attack, without getting at the roots of racism. He said, which is stemmed in economics, capitalism. He thought. Now, I'm not against capitalism, but I get what he was saying that a lot of the things we consider problems of race are really problems of class, class struggle. And that is when he got assassinated. Notice they they allowed him to live when he was just talking about black civil rights. But as soon as he came against the economic system, oh no, that's when he had to go. But to say more than that, I'll be going above my pay grade, right? So anyway, um, DJ Lou says, so you're basing his blackness on his geography? Yes, yes. Most of what we consider race is based on geography. So much so that in schools, like some of them wanted to do with using race as a category and instead use the category, a geographic category of clades or clines, which the people tend to be separated by these geographical differences, which causes us to look differently. If you look at people within certain parts of the world, they're all brown. People who live within the subtropics tend to be browner people with kinkier hair. Whether you're talking about India, Africa, Asia, where people in the north tend to be lighter, taller, straighter hair. So yeah, so some people, but you don't have to go that far to just say it's just geographic. It's both, because the whole reason we have racial different races is because of our geographical separation throughout human history, separated by difference by seas and mountains and deserts. But getting back to what I was saying about Obama, yes, he's not a foundational black American, therefore he is not black. And he's never been a part of the black community. So no, he's not black. Now, if you're a Caribbean or African person who grew up in a black community, I have no problem with considering you a black person. When I was in, when I grew up in Baltimore before I moved to Illinois as a kid, I grew up around a community of black people, and a lot of them were of Jamaican descent. It was cool, but again, he never grew up in a black community, and he doesn't have he doesn't have the history of a foundational Black American, so he's not Black. So Miss Mary 2010 says, "I'm from the hood in Chicago, and it's ghetto here. I still live here, and I'm from Syria." Oh, okay, so you're from Syria. Are you a Syrian Christian, Mrs. Mary 2010? And yeah, Chicago is really bad, so be careful out there. If you don't already, buy yourself a tactical flashlight. Very useful, and you because you can take a tactical flashlight with you anywhere. Put it in your pocket. The tactical flashlight, you can. They have very high lumen, right? So you can flash in someone's eye and temporarily blind them, and you can use the head of the flashlight to hit them with it. Um, and some of them even have like a glass breaker edge to them that makes them extra durable. So get yourself a tactical flashlight or a tactical pen to carry around with you. But yeah, Chicago is really bad, Mrs. Mary 2010. So be careful out there. I'm from Illinois, but I didn't live in Chicago. I lived in Will County. So, um, but a lot of the bad people from the south side of Chicago moved out to that area when I moved back to the East Coast. So Dragon Slayer says, "Oh, he flew right over my question. Is okay though." What? No, I did answer your question. You didn't hear me. Like I was saying, it was a really broad question, so it was hard to answer. But you don't remember? I spent like literally like 20 minutes. I spent like literally 20 minutes on your question. It, it once I upload this live, because I upload all my live streams. I upload this live stream. You watch it on replay. You will see that I spent like 20 minutes on your question. Like I literally spent. I may be exaggerating, but I spent somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes on your question alone, because other people were even commenting on the chat room to what I said. EOJ says, "Do the thug shaker." I don't know what that is, bro. But I literally don't dance for anyone. If you want me to do anything, drop a super chat or drop a super sticker, because I'm not your performing monkey. uh, DJ Lou said that's a very bold statement, bro. Um, it may be bold, but it's true. Like, I'm not sure. Like, and I didn't come up with the concept of foundational Black American. That's Tariq Nasheed did. Other people say ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. Either way, Black Americans have always been a distinct group from the Black immigrants who have come here later. So much so that in historical American documents, we were referred to as the freedmen. That was a way of talking specifically about Black American people. They call them the freedmen in some of the historical documents. So when affirmative action was first established, it was supposed to be specifically for the freedmen, but no, they generalized it to every single minority group, including women, and it became that white women took the most advantage of affirmative action. So black people, by and large, weren't didn't care when it was taken away for college admissions because we weren't even receiving it, the benefits of it. Um, Mrs. Mary Twain is very Christian. I love the Lord. I assumed that I didn't want to assume, but I know that a lot of Syrians are actually Christian. That's why I was asking you. Priyo says, "Hello, boy. I'm from Indonesia and Jakarta. I subscribe. You okay, bestie?" Well, thank you, but don't refer to a man as a boy. That's very offensive here. Um, I have I haven't been to Jakarta yet. I've been to Indonesia. Jakarta is not really on my list, mainly because my wife doesn't. She doesn't want to go to Jakarta because to her that's just she she feels like it's just going to Manila. But I might get her to convince her to go. We'll probably go to Java because that's where most of the population. Well, Priyo, that most of the population has been heading towards there, and they either have or they're going to establish the capital there in Java because Jakarta is losing its population, and because of climate change is starting to sink. So anyway, Jurgen says, no, not that question. I asked a question about the campaign funds of Kamala Harris. You skipped it. I didn't even see it. I'm sorry. He said you have no obligation to answer though. All good. Can you restate it? Because I literally didn't see the question. I'm sorry. It might have been hit, or it might have been hidden, depending on what words. If you use certain words, the algorithm will hide stuff. So sometimes I don't even see anything because the actually let me change my chat filter. That might be why I changed it to all messages. Some okay, yeah. I was probably missing some stuff. So let me see. Mm-mm-mm. Uh, so most of the stuff I missed was rising knowledge being up in his feelings because I guess that dick in his ass was starting to hurt. He's telling me I have no bitches and I'm literally married, like literally married. I don't need bitches. I have a woman. um, mm, guys, I'm just scanning through all the stuff that I've potentially missed. Give me a second to get back down to the bottom of the chat room again. Yeah, some of the stuff that I missed was probably for the better. To be honest, some of the stuff I'm missing. Um, yeah, but I definitely didn't see. I definitely didn't get the question because I scrolled all the way up there. I can say I didn't see it. Mrs. Mary says division is the only way to destroy our humanity. We love first. Government plants seeds of hate. Blessings, brother. Yeah, like I said before, Mrs. Mary, 2010. You have all these political pundits on both sides, and they foster division amongst the people. And the irony is that, once they get off the air, they're all buddy buddy with each other. But they want you to hate your neighbor, cut off family and friends because they don't agree with you. Meanwhile, they're all living amongst each other happily because they all share in this American oligarchy, but they want to sow division uh, amongst the average amongst the average people. Don't fall for it. You can disagree with people wholeheartedly about their politics and still love them or be friends with them. My friends and I don't agree with on politics at all. I have one friend who's like how I used to be like 20 years ago. I have another friend who's been more going towards my direction in a lot of the views that I think, but he doesn't agree with a lot of stuff that I think either. But we still get along more or less. Um, DJ Lou said we started off a little shaky, but it's all good. Keep doing your thing. Much success to you. I subscribe. Take care. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother. 619-664 says night. Thank you. BSK says blue state and voter ID coefficient very weak. Oh yeah. So I don't know how true that is, but yes, I have seen those correlations recently showing the places where weak voter ID was also the places where Harris won. Um, what I will say is I don't think one was the cause of the other. I think there's a positive correlation between somewhere being a blue state and having weak voter ID laws. Like I didn't have to show ID when I went to my voting place either, but that's only because they already had a system where where all the registered voters were in the system. So I just had to tell them my name and I think I just told them like my name and address or something like that, and she pulled it right up on their in their machines. She was like, "Oh, okay, I see you here, such and such, such and such." And I was like, "Yes, that's correct." She was like, "All right." She was like, "Well, go on." So it's not because. So I guess you could call that weak voter ID laws, or you could say that they have a stronger automated system where they had all the registered voters already in their system. So you just had to give them your name, so they knew that you were registered to vote. Because if not, they probably would have said, well, you got to fill us out to vote and blah 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 blah. But yeah, Jordan says, did you know that Harris spent $1 billion on her campaign and still ended up in $20 million in debt? Thoughts on her economic handling? So yeah, we talked. My friend and I talked about that. So she had more than 1 billion. No, the thing that's so that makes it worse actually, Dragon Slayer. So no, what happened was when they so the day that she was announced to be the front runner, when they said Biden was stepping down for that 2 days, we didn't know who was going to be. They were going to do a primary or they were going to select someone else, and then the next day they selected Harris, and people were so happy and thrilled about it. Like she got an immediate boost in the polls, and she got $1 billion. Um, for her campaign. But no, they spent well over $1 billion. She just got $1 billion those first couple of days when they announced that she was running for president. So no, she's $20 million. The DNC is $20 million behind, but they spent well over $1 billion. Trust me. This has been one of the most costly elections, and it seems like every election, it's more and more spending is going into it, which is makes it so impossible for the average person to ever run for office because they're spending literally billions of dollars in these campaign efforts and for these elections. But no, she spent over $1 billion, bro. She just she she got $1 billion when she first like announced that she was running for office. So it's yeah, um, it's pretty bad. Trump, for his own part, said he was willing to pay off their $20 million in debt for the sake of unity. Shows he's the bigger man. Because I would have been like, you. So you know. But again, that's why I'm saying they're oligarchy at the end of the day. So you know, Gary Graves says Donald Trump got it going on. Mrs. Married says That's how dead people though, because the name is an assist. Dead people vote. Well, no. So they check. So that's the other thing. This is Mary 2010. So, uh, well, so first of all, let's acknowledge this. Like, even if dead people vote, it would not be in enough numbers that it could sway any election whatsoever, because it just wouldn't be enough people. In 48 out of the 50 states here, the electoral vote, all the electoral votes goes to the winner of the popular vote. So, like here in my state and in your state in Illinois, whoever wins the popular vote wins all the electoral votes for that state. So let's say Maryland has 6 electoral votes. If Harris won Maryland, which she did, she gets all those electoral votes. Now, only in Maine and in Nebraska do they have an electoral vote that's proportion to where people won in the state, which I think they should do across the country. We shouldn't have the victor takes all electoral votes. There should be proportional electoral votes, but that's a different subject. The point is there's not enough people who are in the system who are dead or who are illegal that can sway an election. The numbers just don't bear that out. Uh, Also, the thing is, all these votes have to be accounted for. Like people don't realize, like the official results aren't until January. Like they're right now, every all these votes are being counted and recounted, and then there will be challenges made to votes. So the official count doesn't actually come to January, and then after that is done, that's when they have the presidential inauguration of the winner. But if there's if there's any sort of if there's if there's any sort of problems, it's going to be found and corrected, because again, after the November election, it takes up until January to count up everything, to recount and make sure everything is correct. This is how we saw the problems from the 2000 election between Al Gore and George W. Bush, because of the hanging Chad ballots in Florida, in that one particular county in Georgia. It basically came down to one freaking county in Florida to determine the election. That's George Bush won by a few hundred votes, and it's still a contention by many that if they hadn't thrown away some of those hanging Chad votes, that Gore would have won. But remember, it got challenged so much, like because of the because of the issues with that, it went all the way to the Supreme Court in 2000. So if there's any foul play going on, whether people are using dead people, whether it's illegal, whether there's people who are not legal migrants to vote, um, whether a person's not eligible to vote in their state because of felonies or whatever, all that's going to be caught by January. But again, a lot of that riffraff that goes on is not going to be enough to change the electoral votes, to change the outcome of the election. It's just the numbers just don't bear it out. Um, Howard Clay says that's how dead people vote. How? Like, don't you? Wouldn't you have to know that dead person's name to use their name to vote for? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you can't. I. It's conspiratorial thinking. Like, you gotta remember, these are regular people. Like, if someone sees you walk in, right? Like, my name is Aman. I say, hey, my name is Aman, such and such. And I give them that information because all the registered voters are in the system, and I come in and vote. If I come in and vote again, or try to vote again, and this time I use a different name, say, hey, my name is Tyrese, they're gonna be like, no, you're not. You just came in here and you voted. That's voter fraud. I will get arrested. Like, no, like, people are not that dumb. Like, they're not gonna see you walk in one day and vote, and then come in another day and be like, oh, okay. And even if they do, through being not very attentive or whatever the case may be, it's gonna be, again, that's gonna be taken care of, because again, these votes aren't official until January. They're being counted and recounted. All that stuff is being all of that all of this sort of stuff that people fear happening is accounted for. This is why it takes 2 months to for those results to become official. The AP has declared a winner the next day, but those none of those results are official to January. That's what people don't get. All this stuff is being accounted for. BSK says officially folks just did not show up for um, FKH. Yeah, exactly. How do I pronounce your name? Taih. Ty. I'm just. Is it the fact that Democrats picked the wrong candidate? Exactly. Exactly. And they changed. They waited until too long to replace Biden. They replaced him in the 11th hour. And I said, for people who was watching my streams back in July, I told them that. I said they waited too long to replace him. I said they should have replaced him a year ago and did a primary. But that's on. It was on them to lose. Like, when you're an incumbent president, you have all the advantages that the that your rival doesn't. Ty says Trump won not because he is good. He said any white man candidates could beat Trump. I won't say any white man could have beat Trump. I don't believe that. What I will say though is that there were Democratic contenders who could have beaten him. Gavin Newsom probably could have beat him. Uh, Back in 2016, the polls showed that Bernie would have beat him. Uh, like I said, there were Democratic contenders out there that who could have beaten him. Biden barely beat him in 2020, barely. But so many people were dissatisfied with Trump at that time, and part of that had to do with the pandemic crashing the economy. Uh, but in any case, yeah, there were definitely some candidates who could have beat Trump. I won't say any candidate would have beaten Trump. I won't say that. But she definitely wasn't the person for it. Like, people forget, she lost the primary back in 2020. She was like one of the first people to drop out the race. She lost her own state. She lost her she lost her own state during the Democratic primary. Andrew Yang won it, I believe. He wasn't even a former politician. He was just a businessman. Miss Mary 2010 says forgot to add the word vote. No problem. Howard Clay says she's gonna work McDonald's to pay it off. No, she's still a rich woman. That debt goes to the DNC. Not It's not her personal debt. That's now the debt of the Democratic National Committee. So I mean, maybe she can go work. Let me stop. I was about to say something bad. Yeah, Howard Clay says Nebraska and Maine. Yep. Ty says mass deportation of Mexicans mean make blacks work in a farm again, means no college without tuition, means save tax. Um, that doesn't follow. That's completely non sequitur. First of all, most of the people coming across the border aren't even Mexicans. If anything, the numbers have showed that there's been more Mexicans moving back to Mexico, not coming from Mexico over the past few years. Most of these people coming across the border are coming from Central and South America, not Mexico. And some of them aren't even coming from Latin America. Some of them are coming from the Caribbean, and some of them are coming from Asia. But the majority of them aren't actually Mexicans. Uh, Also, they're not going to make black people work in the farms again. That No. But the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of Americans willing to take those low-paying jobs just to put food on the table. Um, but that has no bearing on them going to college without tuition or whatever. That none of that. I, I get what you I get your thought process, but that's completely non sequitur. Like that just doesn't follow. Howard Clay says the electors. Yep. Drexler said yes. Kamala Harris did indeed spend well over $1 billion. It definitely wasn't a grassroots campaign. Makes you wonder where they raised their money and if special interests are at play. Well, definitely special interests are at play. Dragon Slayer. The $1 billion she gained was a lot. A lot of it came from Black Americans when she came, like, when she first got announced as the front runner. That first $1 billion, I think they were trying to say Black women gave her that. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. And even if that was what they reported, I'm not even sure if that's actually true. But I remember she receiving $1 billion that first week that they announced her as the front runner. Um, but yeah, they spent well over $1 billion. Both campaigns did. But yeah, of course, special interests are in play because if you forget the Supreme Court decision back in 2000, 2012, they made it that now, I mean, one of the decisions was that it made that corporations could be considered persons, which is fucking crazy. But corporations could be considered legally a person and therefore have no limit to how much they spend on political campaigning, which basically embolden these super PACs, um, political action committees. As far as special interests, I don't have a problem with special interests because literally the founding fathers, or at least some of the founding fathers, when you read some of the Federalist Papers, wanted indeed for special interests to have an outsized um, grip on American politics because they thought that would be the best way that people could represent their interests in the government would be through special interest groups. At least for some of the founding fathers, when you read the Federalist Papers. Um, Ms. Mary 2010 says, so Illinois is very corrupt. She said, they don't ask me my name, but we have a lot of illegals in Cook County. Oh, I'm sure you do, particularly in Chicago. Um, it's again, it's not corrupt. Like, well, actually, Chicago politics is known for being corrupt, but that's a different subject. But no, what I was going to say is like a lot of places use automated systems where if you are a registered voter, they have it already in their system. Just like if you go to like the DMV or MVA, whatever they call your Motor Vehicle Association or Department of Motor Vehicles, whatever. Like you're already in the system when you go to those places. Like so, it. But other places, it depends. Like each state does it differently. But I wouldn't be adverse to asking people for an ID when they come to the election because every adult should have a photo ID anyway. I'm not adverse to that, but again, in a lot of places where they have a more advanced regist- uh, voter registration system, it's not necessary. I I think in a lot of poorer states they might use a more traditional system where you bring a photo ID with you to your to your voting destination. Again, I don't have a problem with that because you should have a photo ID of yourself anyway as an adult. But some systems are more have more advanced registration systems that's not necessary. But everyone should be expected to have one anyway. Because what if the system goes down, right? So, Howard says Kamala has to be the final certifier. Mm, no, not you. No, she doesn't. You're talking about so with the whole 2020 thing when I get it, but no, she she is not in a position where he has 312 electoral votes. 312. She has 226 electoral votes. He has like over 75 million votes. She has about 70 million votes. There's no way that she can, as the president of the Senate, as the role of the VP goes, be able to overturn that. There's no way she can do that. Even if she wanted to, she can't do that. As Mary 2010 says, I don't know if knowing how it's supposed to work and how it works is reflected. Illinois went blue based on the population of Chicago. The governor here is all about it. No, Illinois has always been a blue state, Mrs. Mary 2010. Uh, Illinois has not been a swing state since I was a kid. Like it's always Illinois has always been a blue state since I was little, and I lived there back in the 80s. Illinois, it's not just Chicago. Overall, the state you can't turn the entire state blue just on the population of Chicago itself. Yes, Chicago has the the, the largest population in Illinois would be Chicago, but you also forget Joliet, Springfield. uh, Rockford. Um, so those are all blue cities as well, not just Chicago. Uh, Howard Clay says it worked in the 60s in Illinois. Miss Mary Twain says, thanks for the calm tone and peace about you. Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. I'm guessing your username is when you got married, Mrs. Mary 2010. That's kind of funny. Um, James WT said Trump won. Yeah. He said, get over it, Dems are dumb. I'm not going to call them all dumb. I would say there's a lot of folks on the left who are just crashing out and it's stupid that they're crashing out. BSK says being immaculate like FKH is trash. James says Harris is and was a harlot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 single play. If someone didn't count that and immediately take them back to Sesame Street, you're not American. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. uh, um, G Man is I don't know what he's leaving a dot. I don't know what that stands for. But what's up? BSK says FKH got 0 votes 2019. Ty says Trump is 78. I think he's 79 actually. He recently had a birthday. He's 79. Dude, why are you counting down for James WT? Howard says Tulsi tore her up in the Democrat. Yes, exactly. That's what lost her. I think that's what lost her the primaries. That Tulsi Gabbard went, and at that time, Tulsi Gabbard was still a Democrat, guys. She tore into her like she was like, you call yourself a progressive, but everything you did hurted black folks back in California. And I heard that and there was a lot of black people in California from specifically from the Bay Area, so they would never vote for her for how she was as a as a DA in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area before going on to become the Attorney General. Like she was horrible. Like she kept these black men in prison beyond their sentence. She refused to let this a guy who was supposed to be released from prison from because they gave a stay of execution. She she uh, was going to ignore it until the courts forced her to release that guy from his death sentence. She was locking up black women for truancy laws, locking people up for weed, and then lied and then went on the freaking Breakfast Club and said, she smoked and just laughed when she said, well, did you prosecute people for it? She lied and said Tupac was her favorite. And I know this is petty, but it just shows that how dishonest she is. She lied and said Tupac was her favorite rapper back in college. But Tupac wasn't even out when she was in college. She was in college in the 80s. He didn't come out until the 90s. So it's like the bitch is lying. And to say she was a progressive, like, no, you're not. That are like I don't I, I don't know if you can even if it's even possible to say you're a progressive prosecutor. But even so, because I guess there are some progressive prosecutors, people who just refuse put to keep people locked behind bars who deserve to be behind bars forever. But she wasn't doing that. She was happy to keep people behind bars as long as they were black. How progressive of her. Anyway, moving on. Uh, BSK say or delegates or whatever. Yeah, right. Howard says these Latinos are God fearing people. They have values, not down with this culture of war madness. Yes, most Latinos are socially conservative. So to be surprised that they voted for the conservative candidate, it shouldn't that shouldn't have been a surprise. Um, Dragon Slayer says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold the phone." Donald Trump spent $583 million and ended with 10 million to spare. Thoughts? I don't know. I can't speak on it because I don't know how much he spent on the campaign. Besides that, that doesn't go into how much the RNC spent outside of what his his own campaign spent. So I can't talk on those numbers because I don't know it for a fact. Uh, this okay. Listen to this. See, this is some of the meltdown of the left typified right here in this statement by this guy named Zagreus, who says it must be shit being a. And by the way, I'm gonna make his what he's saying more grammatical because you would think people on the left are supposed to be the more educated ones, right? Uh, anyway, he said it must be shit being a non-white American having a racist running your country and knowing 99.9% of the people who voted for him are racist too. Where are you getting those numbers from? No, he's not. Zagreus, you obviously didn't see my community tab I posted today showing him with the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Muhammad Ali, and Don King, and the quote about how he supports Black Americans and think they would do better by doing more things to support their community and not being so nice to others that come into their community and not help them. Here's the thing: maybe let's say Donald Trump is racist, but he didn't use systemic racism. Guess what? In the 80s, he supported Reverend Jesse Jackson's run for office, and he funded his campaign. He helped fund his campaign back in the 80s. In 1990, when Nelson Mandela was released from prison in South Africa, he personally chartered a private plane to bring Nelson Mandela to the United States. During, I believe, Hurricane Katrina, Jennifer Huss's family lost their homes. And he personally put them in his private hotels at no cost to them. What else? He was on plenty of sitcoms and stuff like that with black people back in the 90s, like The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He was quite beloved amongst black Americans, like when he became famous through The Apprentice, even being, named in several rap songs. Um, and I can keep going on, but to say everyone who voted for him is racist is just patently false, and it's you're talking out of emotion, not of reason. I think a lot of you voters, you Kamala voters, y'all need more testosterone in your life. You need to eat some red meat. You need to do some push-ups. You need to get someone to punch you occasionally to get the bitch out of you. Howard Clark says Hamilton wanted that corrupt system of politics. You're talking about Alexander Hamilton, and that's not a corrupt system. And it actually wasn't Alexander Hamilton who wrote about this having special interests in the Federalist Papers. So if you're referring to Alexander Hamilton, that wasn't who actually wrote about it. But special interest is not corrupt. Like to sit there to say special interest just means, hey, we're going to form a group in advocacy of our own interests. So if you want to advocate on behalf of wildlife protection, that's a special interest. If you are small business owners and you want to advocate on behalf of small business owners, that's a special interest group. There's nothing corrupt about that. Dragon says his 2024 campaign funds. I mean, okay. BSK says affluent children have passports. I wish I had one as a kid. Mrs. Hamilton 2010 says the state is pretty much red aside for Chicago. I don't think so. Like I said, I lived in Illinois. I really can't say that. Like, again, you forget there's several other cities besides Chicago. There's Joliet. There's Joliet. There's Rockford. There's Springfield. Those are all pretty much blue cities as well. And Cook County overall is blue. So, uh, BSK says look closely how red California, etc., was geographically. I mean, the problem is with saying red states versus blue states generally is that it's just if you look if you zoomed in on it, no place is like all red or all blue. Usually around cities and more uh, developed urban areas, they tend to be more blue, whereas more rural areas tend to be more red. It should be more the the urban versus rural more than calling it blue versus red states. But some of those more developed urban areas tend to have higher populations, so they are overrepresented in each state because they have higher population numbers. So, but like, look, Philly is a very blue city, but Pennsylvania still went red because most of Pennsylvania is conservative and rural. So it's definitely not the case that Chicago itself turned the entire Illinois blue. If there wasn't other parts of Illinois that were also blue as well, because like I said, Philadelphia is a very blue city. I used to live in Philadelphia, but most of Pennsylvania is not blue. So Philadelphia by itself cannot turn all of Pennsylvania blue. It can't. And Illinois is a larger state. Um, and Illinois is a larger state than Pennsylvania. So uh, Isaiah Rose says we love Trump. You say, oh my God, Tulsi is a good looking woman. Yeah, she is. She's kind of hot, low key. She she got the little. I really don't like the white hair streak, but I guess it makes her more like Rogue from X-Men. So, but yeah, yeah, Tulsi can get it. I'm just saying. BSK says Lieutenant Colonel Intel Tulsi Gabbard Guard of Reserves Army. Zachary says Isaiah Rowe, you love a racist. You you're not going to dissuade anyone from what they think by simply calling someone racist. When you call everyone racist, it loses its meaning. You can't call anyone whom you don't like a racist and think that's going to have any impact because it the word itself loses any impact when you overuse it and you abuse the term. DB Cooper says bros before hoes. uh, Eddie L says, well, it's better than ripping off your poor followers. Donald Trump said he likes uneducated and poor people. They're gullible, and he was right. So okay, let's say he does say that, or that he does think that. You don't think the Democrats do the same thing with their constituents? Again, they all went to Ivy League schools or elite universities. They all attended the same events and joined the same organizations. They all live in affluent communities. They all send their kids off to good schools. But again, like I said, the roles have reversed. Back when I was a teenager, it was the Republicans who were considered aloof and elitist. Now the Democrats are seen that way, and it's their fault for doing so. They constantly shit on working class people. They call anyone who votes for Republicans garbage or basket of deplorables. They're the ones who are being condescending. And they love minorities unless those minorities don't agree with their views. then they say all sorts of racist things against those very minorities. This is why Malcolm X said 60 years ago he prefers the racist Southern wolf over the liberal fox. He said these Northeast liberals are the worst kinds of racists. He said because they'll have you believing that that you know that they're for you. He said they're but they're like a fox. They're cunning. He said so you don't know what to expect with them. He said the fox, the redneck, the little southern redneck fox. He said I prefer that sort of racist. He said because at least I know what's coming with them. They don't hide it. They let you know. They let you know right up front. Hey, we don't like you. He said so you know how when you know that that person that's how they feel. That's how they think. You can deal with that. But when you have this cunning fox that pretends they like you and they just setting you up for the kill, what do? Black people have been voting Democrat for 50 years, and outside of the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, they have gotten shit for it. They got this Civil Rights Act in '64 and the Voting Rights Act in '65, and hadn't gotten shit since. They ain't got shit since, other than a lot of lip service and some people who gotten prominent positions within the Democratic Party. Haven't gotten shit else from them since then. Sergey says, first, I'm not left. I'm not American. I don't vote. Then you have no voice in this conversation, Sergey. You literally have no opinion. You have no informed opinion on this matter whatsoever. You're not American. You don't vote. What you says literally doesn't matter here. You're not American, bro. He said, I don't vote. He said he's not racist. You don't. Do you know why he was sued by the DOJ in the '80s? Don't you? I don't give a fuck. You're not American and you don't vote. I don't care what you think anymore. You played yourself when you said that. No one here in this chat room is going to care what you think. You're not American. You can't vote. So you don't know anything about American history, culture, and politics other than what you see on the news. So literally, your opinion doesn't matter here. I'm sorry to tell you that. Try again. Howard says you're a rational, critical thinker. He said, I like this. So thank you, appreciate it. Peter Snyder says Trump. BSK says 14 border counties in Texas, 12 went red, first time ever. Yeah, and look, he won every swing state. So that's how you know this wasn't rigged or anything. He won all these swing states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, um, Nevada, uh, what was it, Arizona? Um, did I say Wisconsin? He won every single swing state. He didn't even like he didn't even pull that in 2016. At least Hillary won some of the swing states back in 2016. Uh, Harris didn't win any swing states this election. The whole landscape of the geopolitical map is red right now, and then you combine that with the elections in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. The signs are clear. To sit there and say that every single person that voted either Republican or for Trump is racist is just patently absurd, and you really can't square that circle other than talking out of pure emotion. You can't square that circle. The numbers just don't bear it. Not to mention, you simply can't account for what people actually think and feel. Peter Snice is ready to shut off the border ASAP. Right. What's the guy named Tim? What's the name of the border czar guys that he picked for that? That man, that man ain't gonna be no joke. Jake's wife says stopped in for the light. What's up, Jake's wife? How you doing? Dragon Slayer says, "I dare you to roast me in the worst ways possible. Hold nothing back. Nah, nah, nah. We'll do that. That can be for a separate day. Like I can maybe do a stream where I say where I'll just that's a possible topic I might want to do one day where I have people come in and I just roast them. But I don't choose to roast people. I only do that to people who come in just trying to disrespect me for no reason. Chicago West says hello, handsome. um, Appreciate it, Chicago West. Peter says heard Nancy Pelosi's husband's father was involved in a mob. Is that true? I don't even know her husband's father. I don't know. I know her husband is involved in the stock trade, which means she shouldn't be able to invest in stocks because she's doing insider trading. But that's a different subject. They call her Nancy Insider Trading Pelosi. Zagreus says, "So you're insulting me for no reason. You people are soft little." Um, Project much, Zagreus? I didn't. I'm not insulting you. I said you're. I'm saying what you said doesn't matter because you're not American and you can't vote here. So we don't care what you think. You're the one insulting people. You called every single Trump voter a racist. You insulted people, bruh. But the fact that you're not American and you can't even vote here and you're talking about people are racist, no one's going to take you seriously. That's why I said what you say doesn't matter because you're not American, you can't vote here, and you hold very strong opinions on people whom you don't know. So your voice doesn't matter here. That wasn't an insult. That was a statement of fact. That's the difference. You calling people a racist is an insult. You don't even know the political makeup of our country. If you did, you would have known that every single demographic voted for Trump in this election. Native Americans voted for him 63%. Latino people voted for him at over 50%. And you can break it down by gender, like the men at 47% alone. Black men, for the first time, have voted 23% for a Republican candidate. White women, the people whom Harris needed to win the election, they voted for Trump at over 51%. Asians voted for him more than they voted for her. Well, not more. Well, I should correct. Not voted for him more than they voted for Kamala, but I would say more, a higher number of them voted for her than in previous elections, just with Black people and Latino people and Indigenous people. So if every single demographic shifted to voting for him over the previous two presidential elections, these people aren't racist because these are all minority people, save for the white men and white women. So what you're saying simply doesn't add up. You were in fact insulting people, and now you're hurt because I called you out on your bullshit when I said you're a you're a fucking foreigner. Like no one cares what you think about this election. You have no voice in our election, so no one cares what you think. Suck it up and worry about your own country. BSK says Tom Payne. Is that his name? Tom Payne? Um, I, I I know it's Tom something. I couldn't remember his name. BSK for the new board czar, but I know he's gonna be. I know he's not gonna play. Sassimo529 says nobody's looking. It was rigged by Musk, Starlink. No, it wasn't. That's not how satellites work, guys. So, I mean, you sound just as bad as my grandmother who thinks I put a passcode on the TV because she couldn't turn it on when all she had to do was hit the power button. Bless her soul, she's like 85, so I get it, even though she lived in a time where TVs will always have to be turned on by power, so I don't know why she got confused. Anyway, the point is Starlink has nothing to do with the different voting going on in each country. How is a satellite? I did my ballot by pencil and paper. How is a fucking satellite gonna alter my votes? That doesn't make sense. Some of you really are crashing out over this election, and what you're saying really doesn't add up. Like some of you, some of you really need to get. Just buy a book on logic and just study that shit. Like, you think a satellite is going to change a pencil and paper ballot? Okay, sure, okay. And the thing they feed it through is basically like a scantron. If you went to school in the 80s and 90s, you remember the scantron when you filled out the little exam, you filled in the little bubbles A, B, C, D, E, and then your teacher took it and they put it through the little scantron machine. That is a low tech device. That fucking GPS satellite is not going to change that sort of device. I guess a GPS would have changed my speaking spell back in the 80s too, right? I guess like ET, you could hook up the speaking spell and turn it on to send out a signal across space to alert the fellow ET aliens to come rescue him from Earth with a speaking spell, like on the ET movie with a satellite. Okay, sure. BSK says total Congress 100 Senate plus 435 lower house 535 538 electorates. Okay. He said that's convenient though, eh? Sergey says, because I'm not American and don't vote, I can't have an opinion on a man and his views. That's pathetic. No, I'm saying no one's going to take you seriously because you're uninformed and no one cares what you think because you're not American. You're calling every American who voted for that man racist, but you're not in a position to know that. You're not in the epistemic position to talk about people's personal views and say that every single person about him is racist. You're fucking stupid, and I'm gonna time you out because I'm getting tired of talking to you. You sound as stupid as your fucking name, Zagreus. Michael Reese says, "Hi, I'm from North Carolina. What's up, Michael?" Naya 190224 says Harris Waltz 2028. That's possible. She might run for re-election, but again, if she runs for re-election, she's going to have to go through a primary this time. She's not going to make it through a primary. She didn't make it through a primary in 2020. She was the first. She was one of the first people to drop out of the Democratic primary in 2020. People need to remember that. Tulsi Gabbard demolished her in the primary debate, and she dropped out right after she lost California to Andrew Yang. So good luck to her in 2028. Otto 2847 says, I'm not American, but I illegally voted 20 times for Stein in Pennsylvania. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Besides that, you're admitting to voter fraud online. You're stupid, and you didn't do that. So you're both lying and you're stupid. I don't know which is worse, that you're a liar or that you're stupid. Chat room, what do you guys say? Is Idle 2847 worse? What's worse about him? That he's a liar or that he's stupid? Just by show of votes. um, Colleen Campbell says, tell Elon and Rupert that. Tell them what? PSK says, preach it, son. Jamie says, the reason Harris lost is because her entire campaign was based on identity, politics, and abortion. Schmortion. I can't say the word here. People are concerned with feeding their families and paying rent, not skin color or sexuality. Can somebody say tabernacle? Amen to the church. Thank you, Jamie. Exactly. When everything you're talking about is identity, politics, and instead of what you can actually do for people who are feeling economic woes, the Clintons has said this literally since the 90s. It's the economy, stupid. Not you. I'm saying that was their saying. It's the economy, stupid. At the end of the day, what's going to affect people the most is the economy. They worry about the economy and during times of war. Those are the two most pressing issues: economy and war. Dragon Slayer says Tom Homan can't wait till he's in charge of our borders. Get the illegals out of here. You're done. Colleen says if you ate a shroom, it would make sense. Yeah, I don't. I'm not gonna eat a. If I have to eat a psychedelic to make something make sense, then it doesn't make sense because I don't do drugs. What time is it? Shit's 10:58. About to go soon, guys. Michael Reeves says, as a veteran, a lot of people lack perspective because they live in a bubble here in the U.S. If they experience the third world countries as I did, then they will see that Trump ain't lying. Right. I've lived overseas, so right. Shit. Um. Oh, I don't want to go into that, but yeah. Colleen says, this how I felt when all them weirdos said the 2020 election was stolen. Again, there are irrational people on both sides, Colleen. I completely agree. And that's why I keep saying to people that we have a mental health crisis in America. People crashing out on both sides whenever their side loses is just absurd. You can be disappointed, you can be upset, but sitting there having like full throttle meltdowns online, like there were virtual grieving sessions. Now, to at least on the right back in 2020, I don't remember them organizing virtual grieving sessions. These motherfuckers on the left are have have set up virtual grieving sessions. Like I even some of my friends received texts saying you could join these virtual grieving groups, or people just doing it online like through TikTok and YouTube and Snapchat, sitting there in their cars and their apartments breaking down. Meanwhile, people living in third world countries wish they could have a car or a fucking deluxe apartment. And these motherfuckers own the newest iPhone in their luxury vehicle or in a deluxe apartment, sitting there talking about how the world is about to end because of this election. I I can't take them seriously. Like I'm sorry, I don't take anyone seriously who's living an affluent lifestyle, worrying about everything coming to an end and sitting there breaking down about it when you live a privilege. Like how privileged are you to be sitting there on a fucking newest iPhone in your luxury vehicle in your deluxe apartment talking about the woes of losing an election while there are people literally starving to death. um, Colleen says, I remember. She said, what are you talking about? um, BSK says, check this one out. Poland, extremely low crime rate and extremely low immigration, especially Muslim origin. Colin saying this, the price of eggs worth human rights. What human rights? What human rights are being lost? And yes, and at the end of the day, yes, feeding myself and my family is more important than abstract some people's abstract notions of virtue. Yes, absolutely. The price of those eggs are well worth it. Absolutely. It's one of the basic on the Abramov's Abraham Maslow's hierarchy and needs. Yes, the very bottom is being able to eat, food, shelter, safety. And that makes up the that makes up the bottom, the foundation for the hierarchy of needs. The at the foundation of the hierarchy of needs is not a sense of human rights. No, no human rights are being lost. What human rights are being lost? Did you again in his 4 years in office back in 2016 to 2020? What fucking human rights were lost? So all of a sudden, human rights are going to be lost in this election, in this term of his presidency, but not in the last one. Nothing was lost from 2016 to 2020. Things shifted more to the left in his in his 4 years. So, what human rights are going to be lost? What human rights? Some of you don't even know the distinction between civil rights and human rights. And on top of that, what some people call human rights is very contentious. What human rights are going to be lost? You know what human rights are being able to feed yourself, have shelter, and protect yourself. Those are human rights. The right to life, the right to feed yourself, the right to protect yourself and your loved ones. Colleen says it was a joke. Do you have a sense of humor? She said, yeah, people don't adult. I'm sorry, because most people are like, I couldn't take, you're going to have to put those in uh, uh, sarcastic quotation marks or asterisks to show that you're joking, because people will come on this chat room literally saying stuff like that and they actually mean it. Like that dude I just timed out, Zagreus. He 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 went off. He started off saying every person who voted for Trump was a racist, and then said, "But I'm not American and I can't vote here." So I was like, "Then how do you have any say in our country? You're a foreigner." Like, be gone. Um, Laundry says I got in a fight at school today, and he said that he and his friends are going to fight again tomorrow at school. I'm scared. What do I do? Um, yeah, I don't. You don't have to learn to deal with it. First of all, that is not the subject of my topic. Is don't come into random people. Don't come into a random live stream with something that has nothing to do with the topic. This is not about you getting into a fight. You know what you're gonna have to do? You're gonna have to man up like we've done for like kids had to do for the past 100 years. We had to deal with bullies. Dealing with bullies builds character. That's what I'll tell you. You'll learn how to deal with it. You'll survive. Damn, I forgot to put on my music this whole time, guys. Dang. I was gonna put on some anime, uh, lo-fi music. Completely forgot. Shit. Um, I'm not gonna probably find the one I wanted. But guys, if y'all want to help him, you can. But if you want me to give you real advice, you're gonna have to drop a super chat. I'm not giving you free advice, especially when you are off topic. So Colleen says January 6th was a very public grieving. Mm, well, there were protests and there were riots. So if you want to call the protests and riots grieving, I guess, but that's not the same thing. I'm talking about there were virtual. The Republicans weren't setting up something called virtual grieving sessions. Like this is literally text that people got. Some of you can back me up. People receive texts and emails saying you can have virtual grieving sessions. On top of that, no one that gave Republicans days off from college like they gave these liberal students a day off from college during the election, after the election results. All these colleges across the campus gave students time off to grieve for the election. They didn't do that in 2021 for the Republican students. They didn't care about them. Richie Rich says, find him first. Colleen says it's a narcissistic view. Okay. Atlas says you listen to Onyx. I haven't listened to Onyx in like 32 years. If you talking about the rap group. BSK says drill baby drill. Thomas Rice says how can I? All right, it's time. I wish that none of my moderators are here. Put some of these people on timeout. Colleen says, did you not remember how many people died because of him? What people died because of him? Did he start any new wars? No. Guess who did start wars? Obama, his secret drone war killed thousands of people, including American citizens overseas, with his secret drone war. Bush, Afghanistan, Iraq. Dragon says, I gotta go. This was a super fun stream to watch. Going into Marine Corps boot camp here soon. Thank you for your service and have a great night. Appreciate it. So, you're about to be a future jarhead, huh? That's cool. That's what's up. I dig the Marines. I actually gave a shout out to them 2 days ago because it was the Marine Corps' 249th birthday on November 10th. So I gave a shout out to the Marine Corps. Then November 11th was Veterans Day. So yeah, the Marines are good folks. Crazy but good folks. Colleen says women's right to protect their own body. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. The only thing that happened was Roe versus Wade was overturned. And that was overturned in Biden's administration, not in Trump's. Two, abortion. Ugh, I can't say that word. Baby deletions are still legal across the country. It's just that now it got turned to the state, so now every state can determine the legality of it since there's no federal mandate. But I personally don't care. Bit, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be blunt. Some of y'all bitches just need to learn to use condoms. Like I'm so tired of y'all saying a woman doesn't have to can't protect her own body. Yes, you can. If you wanted to protect your own body, you wouldn't let a motherfucking nut inside you. You got literally 3 dozen forms of contraception on the market. 3 dozen forms of contraception on the market. 3 dozen forms of contraception on the market. So you mean the only choice is between abstinence and letting someone raw dog you and cream pie you? Hold some fucking personal accountability for your sexual behavior. No one took away a woman's right to protect their own body. You got me too the shit out of people. That's why most guys don't even want to fucking approach you bitches anymore. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be blunt. I don't care at this point. I'm tired. I'm about to go. But sitting there saying you can't protect your own body when baby deletion is legal across the whole fucking country. All Roe versus Wade did was return the issue back to each individual state to determine it for themselves. And that's the Democrats' fault. They had 50 years, 50 years, 50 years to codify Roe versus Wade into law, and they never did because you know why? Because Democratic strategists told them not to do so. They said they can always use it as a wedge issue. So Clinton never codified it into law, Obama never codified it into law, Biden never codified it into law. And I'm glad that it wasn't. It was based on a bitch lying saying that she was great just to get rid of an unwanted pregnancy. So it was always on weak legal legs in the first place. Personally, I am pro-choice because I think allowing people to have that choice to delete their unborn reduces the crime rate. So Colleen says you are a man trying to mansplain how a woman doesn't have a right to protect herself. Yeah, I mansplained that too. And that whole mansplaining shit doesn't work, lady. You came here asking me my opinion on my fucking channel, on my fucking stream. Am I supposed to magically turn into a woman to then talk to you? You don't fucking make any dumb sense. In any damn sense. You think unless I agree with you, I'm mansplaining. Try that try that those Jedi mind tricks on the weak minded, my lady, because that shit doesn't work over here. Over here we use these things called reason and evidence and the principles of reason. That whole mansplain shit doesn't work here. You have the right. What are you in Afghanistan? No. So don't talk about you can't protect yourself. If you were in Afghanistan, then you could talk. Where you have to wear a burqa and a hijab and you're not allowed to go to school. But your whole fucking thing about you don't longer have a right to protect yourself. This is not the Handmaid's Tale. And most of the bitches who keep talking about the Handmaid's Tale have never even read the fucking book. This is not at all what happened when the sons of Jacob overthrew the US government and established an extremist religious theocracy. This Attack on Titan music is epic. Anyway, Charles Chatney says, put on a wig and go to a trucker's rest area, Thomas. Yeah, he would probably. Well, yeah, those lounge what they call them, lounge lizards, those ugly hoes at those trucker stops. I guess if you're a man, you could get away with that. And nowadays, well, they like the LGBTQIASTVWXY and Z, but whatever. Colleen says you really can't accept that you people went nuts. You people, you don't even know how I voted, lady. You don't know in 2016 and in 2020 I voted for Hillary and for Biden. So you saying you people, I'm not even Republican. I'm not Republican. In 2020 I voted for Biden. In 2016 I voted for Hillary. In 12 and 8 and 2008 I was Obama. 2004 I voted for Curry. In 2000 I didn't vote at all, but I was going to vote for Ralph Nader actually because I was Green Party. I've been progressive for the longest. That ended in 2022. I've talked about it ad nauseum on my streams and in my videos and in my YouTube shorts about why I've changed. So you saying you people doesn't you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about because you're talking out of emotion, and this is why men beat you at the elections because men vote. Men are more rational, not going to just vote out of pure emotion, except for some of these little low T Gen Z men. But we don't vote out of emotion and then sit there and have fucking epic meltdowns online. Why do you hate me so much? Why do you hate me? Why? Or like a little Fanuc sitting there yelling at every corner of the wall. Ah, ah. You lose. I'm a Vulcan. Like, I don't care. Like, no one went nuts. You just don't like the general population doesn't view with far left views. Mainstream America doesn't agree with far left views, and yes, they rather care about the price of food for themselves and their family than your abstract notions of human rights. If you cared so much about rights, you people wouldn't have been shutting down everyone's freedom of speech when they disagreed with you on your views. You are willing to take away everyone's cognitive liberty if they didn't agree with your views, but now you want to talk about human rights. Cut the shit. She said, "No, you are the kind of you are the kind of this conversation's over. You don't want to have a conversation. You just write. You think, okay, well, that wasn't even grammatical, but yes, of course, I believe I'm right. You believe you're right as well. The difference is I can defend my reasons. You can't. so you have to use appeal to emotion or you have to try to use sign language. You're in the red pill space here, hon. That sign language doesn't work over here. Try those Jedi mind tricks on the weak minded. That doesn't work over here in the red pill spaces. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right will not work over here. Come with reason and evidence, come with fact, data, and statistics, or you need more people. We don't believe you. JTR Latina says, after sharing in Afghanistan, I don't know what the hell we did after Biden withdrawal. He said, facts. Snapshot. Sniper says, what's up, man? What's up, Snapshot? Uh, Zoba Master 9 says, defend making a liar, felon, and insurrectioner president. Okay. You want that? Chat room, are we waiting? We switched to Naruto. Okay. So, number one, every president has been a fucking criminal since the very first president, George Washington. He was a real estate mogul while he was in office. He acquired land from the French and Indian Wars illegally. He bought and owned slaves. So you can miss me with that shit. You're not going to convince any black American man that Trump is the worst president ever when we literally had presidents that bought and owned slaves. We've had presidents who committed Indian genocide. Old Honest Abe committed elector fraud and put martial law on the land with anyone who disagreed with the Civil War. Every president has been a criminal. What I care about are war crimes. Every politician lies. It's part and parcel of what they do. Donald Trump is not unique in that respect. We're going to invoke the fairness maxim here. We're not going to accuse one person of doing something that everyone does in their field. All politicians lie. Kind of have to. Even Hillary said you got to often talk one way and mean another thing. And she was actually getting that from an old thing that Lincoln said in his papers, where he said he often had to address the public in one way and do things another when it came to governing the country. As far as a felon, no one cares that he's a felon, especially when that felony just counts to him paying off a porn star. No one cares. People are starving right now. People are concerned that some places they go, butter is like $7, that they may not be able to fill up their gas tank to get to work the next day. No one gives a fuck about being a felon. Not to mention, this was through lawfare. All the lawfare they threw it at President Trump turned a lot of people off, because that lawfare showed that people were weaponizing the justice system. This is something that black men have been complaining about for decades, that they will unjustly use the legal system against them. So when we see the weaponizing of the justice system to go after a political target, a lot of people don't like that. Now lawfare is going to stop, because at this point, it becomes a crime. It becomes a conspiracy against rights. Look that up. This is constitutional law. And he didn't. And as far as insurrection, again, you guys need to learn the definitions of the terms that you use. He did not incite an insurrection. They were protests and they were riots. Some of those riots got violent. It wasn't an insurrection. An insurrection means you actually invoke the military against the government. This is happening in places. This is happening right now in places. Hello, Myanmar, aka Burma. So you guys don't even use terms correctly just to try to make a point. There was no insurrection. On top of that, you can go to Capitol Hill for people who live in the DMV area, and all of the footage of the January 6th riots are available at the Capitol Hill to watch. The entire footage is there. And I think you can check it out online too, but all of the footage can be seen at Capitol Hill. There was no insurrection. There was no weaponizing of the military and the police to overthrow the government. That would be an insurrection. And there you go. Anyway, Magnus Dunning says every human lies. Right. Honesty is not necessarily synonymous with telling the truth. So, if that were the case, every single person would be dishonest. Who they says nobody cares. Gas dropped a full dollar just by him winning. Exactly. Exactly, who they. And stocks went up. Stocks went up the next day. And some people was like, well, so what? Not everyone has. So I heard people say, so what? Stocks went up. Not everyone has investments. So not every person works out too, but they should, right? The fact of the matter is, if you have an IRA or if you have a 401k, it probably mattered to you a lot that stocks went up. On top of that, Hamas started saying they wanted to make a peace deal after the election. Ukraine took a call with Trump and Elon Musk, and Trump made a call to Putin so they could fix this Ukrainian Russian war. China's stocks, by the way, went down. Mayor Eric Adams of New York City was saying he would no longer give money vouchers to illegal immigrants the day after the election. Things were starting to correct themselves really quickly. Really quickly. Zuba says, no morals, bro. You can't make a lying criminal president. Have some standards. Every president has been a criminal. Every president. This is why they all have partial immunity to crimes while in office. Because if so, every opposing party could weaponize the legal system against the incumbent president. They all have committed crimes. Where was your boo-hooing when Obama was the deporter in chief? You know all those little, all those little immigration detainment camps on the border. That started under fucking Obama. The secret drone wars in Yemen and Afghanistan and Somalia, places. No, I'm sorry, Sudan. Those all those secret drone wars. That was under Obama. Matter of fact, and I said this a dozen times. I keep saying it again. The Washington Post editorial said that they found they had got insiders to admit that he was allowing black ops that even Bush wouldn't have approved of during his administration. And let's get back to Bush with his whole the the overstep of the Patriot Act and the Homeland Security and the wiretapping of American citizens, both under him and Obama. The coming after whistleblowers, government whistleblowers. And like I said, I could go down all the way back to the first president, George Washington, to John Adams, to Thomas Jefferson, John Quincy Adams, and so on and so on. They've all they've all been criminals, all of them. And I'm not being facetious, and I'm not exaggerating. They all have done things that would be considered crimes. So you're talking about morals. It's not morals. It's it's being pragmatic. I don't give a fuck that a president got 34 counts of felony for paying off a fucking paying off a fucking porn star. I don't care. I really don't. Did you care when Clinton got his blowjob in the Oval Office? Were you all up in arms about that too? Probably not. You probably weren't even old enough to remember that shit because you're probably a Gen Z or millennial. Who they said, sure, he can. He's your president and he's damn sure mine. We don't take him seriously, who they? Zuba says, no weaponizing of the justice system. He was indicted by juries. That's not, you're missing the point. You don't know what, again, you don't know words. They were using lawfare against them. Lawfare means you put out, you just inundate someone with all sorts of um, lawsuits and civil and criminal thing, like right, and like they came after him hard, no Diddy, in 2021 with all sorts of lawfare. But you see most of them, but you see smart people like Jack Smith dropped his after after Trump got elected. Letitia James said she was going to keep going at it, and one of the people appointed to Trump's cabinet that said, "All right," he said, Letitia James, he said, "I'm gonna warn you, sweetheart." He said, "You need to drop all this lawfare against him." He said, "Because I dare you." He said, "I dare you to keep going after him now." He said, "Because if you do," I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna lock your fat ass up in prison for conspiracy against rights. Look up what conspiracy against rights is. Hakeem Mitchell says agree. Zuba says bold. Look up the definition of insurrection. 5 section Google. Dude, shut the fuck up, Google. You looking up the direction? You're looking up the definition of something on. Oh yeah, because Google is always correct. You didn't learn internet search skills back in high school or college, did you? In what academic paper could you use a Google definition in your citation? On top of that, in his speech, he never told people to go and throw. He never told anyone in his speeches to overthrow the government. On top of that, he never used the military nor law enforcement to do such. That would be an insurrection. So you're just abusing the term. Nicholas says Trump 2024. Anonymous Commerce says Trump won because Dems COVID policy. Amazing more people aren't making that connection. Oh, some of us have. Who they say you liberals are so effing brainwashed. It's ridiculous. Right. Like the stuff he's saying, who they, it doesn't even make sense. Like it's like the whole insurrection thing. It doesn't make sense. They don't know what an insurrection is. Go live in one of these little third world countries when they have coup d'etats all the time. Then you'll know what an insurrection is. Go live in Burma. That's where you have an insurrection. Or back or back in Thailand 10 years ago when the military when there was a military coup. And I remember that just because my wife is a Taylor Swift fan, and Taylor Swift was supposed to perform in Thailand, but when they had their military coup, they pulled out of letting her perform there. That's the insurrection. If there's not a military coup, there's not a bunch of people overthrowing the government. There's not an insurrection. People rioting and breaking into the into the into the halls of Congress. It's not an insurrection. That's a riot. Chip, the script just says, "Where were you on 9/11?" I was getting ready for my classes. I was still in college at the time. I was getting ready for classes. I think, brushing my teeth, and I had on Fox Morning News, um, the local DC edition. I was in College Park, and that's when I saw the attacks. I was like, "What the?" I ran. I was living in a house with some other friends in college, and I ran downstairs. I was like, "Did y'all just see that?" They was like, "Yeah," and I got to I got to school because we were living off campus, and we were in the student union, and everyone, all of us in the student union, were just looking dumbfounded. We was like, "What the?" Everyone was just like, "What the hell?" And there was a guy who was also in the Army Reserves at the time, like I was. He called his unit and asked them, were they being activated. He said no. I was like, "That's a good idea. Let me call mine too." So I called up, and the admin there, I was like, "Do we need to report or anything?" They was like, "No, just," they was like, "No, we haven't heard anything. Just stand by in case something happens." So I was like, "All right, cool." So went on to my first class of the day, which was my anatomy lab, my physiology lab, and we were just looking like, "What the hell?" And the poor lab assistant, like she had no idea what was going on because she had literally been like prepping the whole morning, so she didn't know what was going on. She found out, and the next day she apologized to us. She was like, "I'm so sorry, guys." She's like, "I didn't know what y'all were going through." She was like, "I was in the lab all morning. I didn't know what was going on." And we was like, "Nah, you're good." He's like, "Can't blame you if you were like didn't know what was going on." But yeah, I clearly remember that day. On top of that, my friend was just coming in from California. He was stationed in the naval base of San Diego, and he got reassigned to the Pentagon. And when it's only by luck that he didn't come back on time, that he wasn't in the Pentagon when it got hit by the plane, because he was in that wing where they got struck. That's where he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be assigned. So it was kind of luck that he didn't show up in time, or he might not be around today. So Nick West says Trump is your daddy. Just because your daddy fucked you in the ass as a kid doesn't mean Trump is my daddy. So you need to go somewhere else with that bullshit. Zuba says look up the definition. Quit lying. The fact that I already explained to you the definition of insurrection means I did already look it up. And again, you're talking to a veteran, so I know what an insurrection is. I don't have to go on Google for things that I know. He said you got lots of excuses but no facts. Do you even know what a fact is? Uh, Obviously you don't, since you didn't even know what insurrection was. Who they says we the people have spoken, deal with it. Right. He said who they said world peace again when Trump wins. How about that? Canadian chick says preach. Thank you. What's up, Canadian chick? Uz Uzum Uzmanov. I can't. I don't know what you're saying. You gotta translate that into English. You can use Google Translate to translate that, or you can use the uh, the Microsoft version of Translate. Zuba says criminals get lawfare. No, even a criminal, you can't inundate people with lawfare. Again, you don't understand what conspiracy against rights is. You cannot take away a person's constitutional rights through lawfare. You cannot. This is a constitutional law. I don't have to look it up, asshole. Unlike you, I'm actually connected with people in law enforcement. I don't need to look shit up on Google because I'm some stupid little fucking Gen Z retard with low testosterone that don't know shit. Go do some push-ups. Uh, Terry says, "What do you call